Chapter 940. Wow. There was an uproar at the scene, and the noisy tavern fell into dead silence. Killing 5 sages with one strike, without anyone seeing his movements, clearly meant that he was at least a monarch-grade martial artist. The strength of that noble young master was definitely above that of his 5 servants, but he still couldn't react in time. This meant that the martial artist with a long sword was most likely a high-level Yuan monarch. Everyone was shocked. The contestants participating in this year's Emperor Martial Arts competition were all hidden dragons and crouching tigers. The owner of the tavern glanced at the 6 corpses on the ground and appeared very calm. He waved his hand and asked a few waiters to clean up the scene. He had seen many such bloody scenes recently. In the past, those who killed wantonly in the Imperial City would have been arrested by the city patrol camp and sent to the death row. With the start of the Emperor Martial Arts competition, killing in the city was a common occurrence. The city patrol camp and the Imperial Army did not have the time to deal with it. Currently, they were only responsible for those who lived in the inner area of the Imperial City and had a noble bloodline. Only those who were noble enough were worthy of the protection of the Dalyao soldiers to prevent others from harassing them. This did not mean that Xiao Yi did not care about the lives of ordinary martial artists. It was just that there were too many contestants and all sorts of people. Xiao Yi even allowed the contestants in the outer *area to kill each other. In this way, he could eliminate some of the contestants in advance and relieve the pressure on the Imperial Army to maintain order. F***CK. The son of the city lord was killed so casually just because he said a few words. How terrifying! The group of youths from the Su family felt a chill in their hearts. They looked at the martial artist with the long sword with fear in their eyes. My friend, what a fast sword. However, you have booked so many rooms and did not even give us a place to rest. Isn't that too much? At that moment, a burly man walked out of the tavern. The burly man had a rough face and was bare-chested. There was a domineering dragon tattooed on his back, making him look mighty and extraordinary. He also carried a sword on his shoulder. It was an extremely heavy, pitch-black sword that was half the size of a door. It was obvious that he was also an expert with a sword. As he spoke, wisps of scarlet flames flickered around the burly man's body. Judging from Qin Hao's aura, the person who spoke was a level 6 Yuan monarch. With such strength, he already had the qualifications to roam the Jianghu. What? Do you have a problem with me? Why don't we have a spar? If you beat me, I'll give you a room, and I'll pay for it. The long blade-wielding martialist sneered in the face of a level 6 Yuan monarch. The corners of his mouth even curled up in disdain. All right. The corner of the brawny man's mouth twitched, and he was forced to nod. Originally, he did not want to fight with the martial artist with a long saber. The aura of the long saber martial artist was quite steady, and he was not sure if he could defeat him. But since the other party had already said so, if he didn't agree, then wouldn't his title of Wild Dragon Tyrant Blade be ridiculed by others? After all, there were many friends of the burly man in the tavern who had come to participate in the competition together. Brother Ba Dao, teach this brat a lesson. Let him know the power of your Wild Dragon Blade. Even I admire this guy named One Blade Flow's courage to seek death by going against Brother Tyrannical Saber. You want to play saber techniques with Brother Ba Dao? Go back and cultivate for a few more decades, huh? Following this, the companions of the brawny man cheered him on. The confidence in the brawny man's heart rose uncontrollably. He pointed proudly at the long saber martial artist and said, "Since you are younger than me, I will let you make one move first. But don't worry, we are just exchanging moves. I won't kill." A saber gleam suddenly flashed from the long saber martial artist's position. Then, the brawny man's voice came to an abrupt halt. Sorry, I never know when to stop. In the eyes of One Blade Flow, there is only life or death. One Blade Flow's eyes were cold as he spat out the word death. It was as if ice had spread and froze the faces of the companions behind the brawny man. Swoosh! This time, even the tavern owner could not help but press his palm on his chest and gasp for breath. His face changed color. A level 6 Yuan monarch still could not block one saber move. This person's cultivation base was heaven-defying. The tavern owner was shocked that such a powerful expert had come to his small tavern. Next, who else wants to spar with me? After finishing off the wild dragon tyrant blade effortlessly, one blade Flow's eyes swept across the faces of everyone in the tavern coldly. Swoosh! Almost at the same time, everyone hurriedly buried their faces in the food and ate with all their might. Their actions were so synchronized that they did not dare to meet One Blade Flow's gaze. One Blade Flow smiled and nodded, indicating that he was very satisfied. You want to snatch a room from me? Are you King courting death? Owner, I want 20 rooms. Suddenly, a voice rang out. Upon hearing this, One Blade Flow's face, which had just turned for the better, instantly turned gloomy. It was as if a violent storm would descend at any time. He instinctively looked at the person who had spoken and saw that it was a young man with 2 strands of white hair on his forehead, standing in front of the counter. Without a doubt, it was Qin Hao. The moment Qin Hao spoke, not only did the Su family members tremble in fear, but the tavern owner was also dumbfounded. He did not react for a long time. Sir, you're not serious, are you? The innkeeper asked. As he spoke, he looked at One Blade Flow warily. Do I look like I'm joking? Qin Hao said sternly. Then, he walked straight to the door. Looking at the door, he saw a long line of people from the Su family. There were hundreds of people. There are so many of us. 20 rooms seem to be a little crowded. If you really can't do it, please drive away all the people who have booked rooms before and vacate their rooms, so that my people can live comfortably. As for the rent, I'll pay them double. Qin Hao chuckled. I want the rest of the rooms. I also want the rooms that were booked before. In short, I'll King book your entire tavern. Crack, crack, crack. Bolts of thunder seemed to come out of nowhere and blasted into everyone's mind. The martial artist's eyes rolled back, and they felt that they were about to faint. The first elder of the Su family and the entire Su family felt as if they had met the king of hell. They almost knelt down before Qin Hao. After seeing the martial artist with a long saber attack just now, the first elder had already thought of retreating and did not dare to fight for the rooms. At worst, they could set up tents in the wild. It was better than losing their lives. Now that Qin Hao had spoken so brazenly, it was clear that he wanted to cause trouble and was provoking the martial artist with a long saber. As for Su Hua and the group of youths, their legs were trembling. A pungent yellow liquid flowed down their pants, and they were so frightened that they lost control of their bowels. I'm sorry, innkeeper. Our mister has caught a cold recently and has been talking nonsense. We don't want the room. We'll leave immediately. In the next second, the first elder hurriedly spoke and took out a sumaru pouch. No one knew how much money was in the pouch, and he threw it at the martial artist with a long saber. He meant to apologize to him. Smack! However, the martial artist with a long saber swept his palm, and the sumaru pouch flew out and landed heavily on the innkeeper's face. He said coldly, "Did I say you could leave?" Boom! The entire Su family felt as if they were struck by lightning. It's over. We're dead this time. Grandfather, father, I don't want to die. I, Su Hua, haven't participated in the competition, and I haven't become the young clan leader. Blind man, who told you to talk so much? You've killed us. Su Mei simply burst into tears. You've been eating and drinking our food, but you've harmed us at such a crucial time. Blind man, you're really a good-for-nothing. Everyone cursed angrily. At this time, the martial artist with a long saber had already walked towards Qin Hao with a smile. He stretched out a finger and poked Qin Hao's chest. Kid, you've got guts. I'm so powerful, but you're still so public at Chu. Suddenly, a sneeze came from somewhere. The old demon, who had been silent all this time, had actually sat down at a table after entering. Chapter 941. Dig. After landing on the ground, he could not help but spit out a few mouthfuls of blood. Yuan Venerate. Shock appeared in One Blade Stream's eyes. He was a level 8 Yuan Monarch, yet he had been severely injured by a sneeze. The other party was at least a Venerate powerhouse. I've taken a liking to this tavern. Do you have any objections? The old monster slowly stretched out his hand and tore off a piece of chicken drumstick that had been eaten by someone else. He threw it into his mouth without any disdain and slowly chewed it. He did not look at one blade flow at all. I was blind and did not know that the old demon was here. I have sinned. Since you've taken a liking to this tavern, it belongs to you. I'll leave immediately. Although he did not know why the other party had not killed him, One Blade did not dare be negligent. He scrambled away in a hurry. Before he disappeared, he turned around and pointed at Qin Hao. Listen up, kid. I hope you're not here to participate in the competition. Otherwise, you'll die if you meet me in the competition. One Blade felt a little better after he said those harsh words and disappeared in front of the tavern. However, everyone in the tavern was so shocked that they couldn't say a word. Everyone knew how strong a cultivator with a long saber was. However, he had been easily sent flying by the old demon with a sneeze. What kind of monstrous existence was the old demon's cultivation? Boo-hoo, honorary elder. The Su family's great elder wiped his snot. He only dared to cry now, as if he had been greatly wronged. His entire family had come to participate in the competition and had almost been exterminated by a passerby. If the old demon had not intervened, the consequences would have been unimaginable. It seemed like the Emperor Martial competition was not only a competition of one's strength, but also one's backing. Without a strong backing, one would not even be able to survive in the city. At this moment, the old demon's status in everyone's hearts had risen. They were even more reluctant to let the old demon leave. The old demon grinned and threw away the chicken drumstick that he had finished eating. He walked over and patted the great elder's head to comfort him. Then, he said respectfully to Qin Hao, Moss, cough, cough, let's go up. After saying that, he personally supported Qin Hao's arm. Wow, the martial artists eating in the tavern were shocked again. It turned out that the terrifying old man who sent the saber martial artist flying with a sneeze was in cahoots with Qin Hao. No wonder he helped Qin Hao. However, such a powerful senior was actually supporting Qin Hao's arm like an old servant. Wait! Qin Hao shouted and threw a piece of paper on the face of the tavern owner, who was petrified. Your place is too dirty and messy. I'll give you 3 days to renovate it according to my description. Yes, yes, yes. The tavern owner came back to his senses and nodded repeatedly. He picked up the paper and looked at it, revealing an extremely ugly and bitter expression. Young master, the layout materials you wrote are indeed for sale in the Imperial City, but the price is too expensive. We are running a small business, so we can't afford it. So many. Pa! Qin Hao raised his hand and threw a ring on the counter. The green spirit ring itself is worth 8 million upper-grade Xian crystals. In addition, there are 5 million Xian crystals in it. The total is 13 million, which is more than enough to open 10 better taverns than yours. But I don't want to open a tavern. I only want to stay here until the end of the competition. The remaining Xian crystals are your tip. Boom. Everyone was shocked and began to gasp crazily. 13 million Xian crystals was just a casual move. What a big deal. Even the first elder of the Su family didn't expect Qin Hao to be so rich. In the beginning, he just regarded Qin Hao and the old demon as down-and-out people who were hiding from their enemies. He even thought that they were poor. Otherwise, why would they eat and drink the Su family's food? Now it seemed that the first elder was completely wrong. Qin Hao's capital was far beyond his imagination. The 13 million Xian crystals alone were enough to buy 20 Su families. Why are you all in a daze? Go do what you need to do. We will book this tavern. Don't tell me you all have something against me. The old demon glared at the rest of the martial artists who were eating and didn't leave. Ghost! Damn it. A sneeze sent a high-level Yuan Monarch flying. Tens of millions of Xian crystals, just like that. Where did this big shot come from? Why didn't he go to the most prosperous, aristocratic district in the Imperial City? Why do you have to fight with us ordinary people to stay in this shabby place? There was a loud rumble. The originally crowded tavern was like a flock of frightened birds. They cried for their parents and disappeared without a trace, leaving the Su family members in a mess. Pa! The second elder slapped Su Mei's face hard. He slapped her so hard that she spat out a mouthful of blood. Grandpa! You! Su Hua's heart ached as she hurriedly protected Su Mei. Little b asterisk tch, watch your mouth. Umph. The second elder's face was filled with murderous intent. Sume was too scared just now and had cursed Qin Hao in panic. Not to mention a slap. At this moment, second elder even had the intention to kill her. And you? The second elder pointed at Su Hua. Even if you are better than Su Su in every aspect, there is one thing that you are inferior to him. After a whole year, you did not gain the slightest bit of favor from Sir. You are such a failure. What use do I have for a grandson like you? The second elder, the great elder, and the rest of the elders secretly exchanged glances. They had decided that no matter what, they would keep Qin Hao and the old demon in the Su family. Based on their performance just now, Qin Hao and the old demon had hidden great value. If they made good use of them, the Su family might become one of the top families in the northern borderline. Qin Hao went upstairs. Not long after, the Su family found out how to qualify for the Imperial Martial Competition's preliminary round. The elders of the Su family happily reported the good news to Qin Hao. Actually, they had already missed a day of the competition. The competition had started yesterday. Due to the large scale of the competition and the large number of arenas, the preliminary round would take 7 or 8 days to finish. The way to qualify was very simple. Defeat 10 opponents in the preliminary round to qualify for the Imperial Martial Competition. Due to the large number of participants, the preliminary round was divided into 4 main competition areas: the East, South, West, and North. Each main competition area had 50 arenas for the subsidiary competition. Qin Hao's tavern was the closest to the North competition area, so he decided to enter the Imperial Martial Competition from the North competition area. He also decided to participate in the Imperial Martial Competition the next day. The elders of the Su family all tried to dissuade Qin Hao from participating tomorrow. The competition was very particular. The first 3 days of the competition were undoubtedly the fiercest. After all, at the beginning, the participants were all hot-blooded and could not wait to be in the limelight. There was no lack of experts among the participants. The competition on the last day would not be any weaker than the first 3 days, because after the last day, the preliminary round would be canceled. Many warriors who were confident in their cultivation and liked to put on airs would deliberately come a few days late and choose to participate on the last day. According to the careful analysis of the elders of the Su family, it was most appropriate to participate on the 5th and 6th days of the competition. At that time, the participants and spectators would not be so excited, and it would be easier to avoid stronger opponents. However, Qin Hao directly refused and insisted on participating the next day. Chapter 942. The next morning, under the guidance of the old demon and Su Su, Qin Hao headed to the northern competition zone. More than 100 members of the Su family followed behind him. Apart from those who were cultivating, most of them were there to watch. After all, Qin Hao is still considered a member of the Su family. Everyone take a guess. How many rounds can Mr. Blind last? If he's lucky, he can last 3 or 4 rounds. If he's unlucky, he might be defeated in the first round. That can't be. Mr. Blind is a grade 5 alchemist with a profound sage cultivation. A commotion broke out in the crowd. Profound sage? Profound sage is nothing. Su Hua's father, Big Head Su, snorted and secretly pointed at some passers-by with powerful auras. Now, the streets of Daliao are filled with king-level martialists and heavenly sages. I heard that there are terrifying Yuan venerates among the top contestants. Maybe, what if he meets a Yuan king in the first round? Just like yesterday's one-blade flow. After Big Head Su finished speaking, a large number of sighs came from the crowd. Big Head Su was right. It all depended on luck. However, Qin Hao's luck wouldn't be too good today. He might really meet a Yuan king in the first round. Who could he blame? He couldn't be blamed for not listening to the elders' advice and deliberately courting death. It was normal for him to become someone else's cannon fodder. Sir, why do you have to compete on the second day? You have to know that the level of the participants today is quite high. It's really... Su Su, who was beside Qin Hao, was very worried. What's going to happen will happen. Even if you're opportunistic and choose to compete on the 5th or 6th day and are lucky enough to avoid a fight with a powerhouse, it's inevitable that you will meet a powerhouse after the competition. This is fate. Rather than avoid, it's better to attack. If you win, you have to win. If you win. If you lose, you have to lose gloriously. Jin Hao patted Su's head. That makes sense. Su seemed to have understood something. Perhaps Mr. meant that losing to a powerhouse wasn't shameful. If he lost to a weakling on the 5th day, he would be ashamed. It seemed that Mr. was prepared to lose. Choosing to lose to a powerhouse would give him more face. This was called cleverness. If Jin Hao knew what he was thinking, he would definitely refute. Lose? Lose my ass. I dare to fight because I have absolute power. They arrived at the northern competition area. Although it was still early in the morning, the competition had already begun. The northern competition zone was very big. There were 50 arenas evenly distributed around the area. The competition was in full swing. Origin Chi shot out in all directions on the arenas, and the cheers and shouts from below the arenas were endless. From time to time, a contestant whose skills were not as good as others would be sent flying off the stage. Along with this, there was a registration area at the bottom of each fighting arena. They had to register first before they could go on stage to compete. In fact, this was called an audition. The registration area was also extremely crowded. Long lines of people lined up far away. Every contestant's face was brimming with confidence and impatience to show off their abilities. After entering the arena, Jin Hao chose to register on the 9th platform because it was closer to the 9th platform. With so many people from a Su family arriving at the same time, it looked like a battle array. Those warriors who came alone to compete chose to take the initiative to step aside. Occasionally, some arrogant warriors who thought they were strong enough and refused to give in would be frightened by the aura emitted by the old demon. Their legs trembled violently, and their faces trembled violently. They nodded and bowed to the side. Gradually, Jin Hao got closer and closer to the registration area by cutting the queue. He only stopped when there were only a dozen people left in front of him. At this time, the contestant who was registering was an old man with white hair and a wrinkled face. Wang Deshun, I'm 19 years old this year. I'm from the Wang family of Northern Qi. The old man introduced himself to the manager of the 9th platform. Ha ha ha. The surrounding warriors laughed. Old man, are you trying to coax a kid? You want to bluff your way through? Marry Princess Jingwe? You're already so old. Don't you feel ashamed? A toad, try to eat swan meat. I suffer from congenital aging. On the surface, I look like I'm 60 or 70 years old. But in fact, I'm a young man. The old man rebuked angrily. Smack. The manager, who was taking notes, slapped the old man's face without saying a word. A surging venerable level aura spread out, and the old man was slapped 100 meters away. His neck was twisted like a fried dough twist, and it was obvious that he was not going to survive. Next, the manager said coldly with an expressionless face, Congenital aging in a young man? Do you think I'm a fool? Hiss. The surrounding warriors gasped. A random manager who was taking notes had venerable level cultivation. The royal family of Dalyao was really terrifying. At this moment, many contestants who were over 30 years old and prepared to lie quietly withdrew from the arena. Once they were found to have lied, they would die. However, the funny thing was that the next contestant to register was a short, fat, and bearded dwarf who was less than 2 meters tall. I'm Fan Chunhua, 27 years old this year. I suffer from congenital dwarfism. On the surface, I look like a child, but in fact, I'm an adult. Sir, I don't dare to lie. As he spoke, the dwarf was so scared that he knelt on the ground. He was afraid that the manager would slap him too. If you really can't do it, I can join the children's group. The dwarf said with tears streaming down his face. Ha ha. Even the manager was amused. Fan Chunhua, right? Your sexy beard has deeply betrayed you. I believe that you're an adult. Go and prepare for the competition. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. The dwarf kowtowed in joy. He was relieved and wiped his sweat as he got up. Strange things happen every year, but it's especially strange today. All kinds of Eggmen are participating in the competition, a curly-haired young man said. Suddenly, he saw Qin Hao, who was supported by Su Su. He could not help but stare at him and point at Qin Hao. Oh, another blind man. Following this, everyone looked at Qin Hao. Even a blind man is participating in the competition. Does he think that Princess Jingwei will take a fancy to him? He's overestimating himself. A toad must be dreaming. I don't think we should let a handicapped person participate. He'll affect the city's appearance. A few companions behind the curly-haired young man said mockingly. Boom! A surge of primordial chi suddenly flew out from the side and sent those people flying to the ground. At this time, a martial artist with a broken leg and a steel cane walked into the arena coldly. The cane hit the ground with a heavy sound. So what if he's a handicapped person? He's a handicapped person, but his mind is not. If you're not convinced, let's fight to the death in the arena. After saying this, the martial artist with the broken leg emitted a scarlet flame aura. King-level martial artist. Those who were mocking Qin Hao were shocked. They quickly lowered their heads and did not dare to say anything else. At this time, the martial artist with the broken leg walked to Qin Hao's side. Brother, I'm Li Tai, nicknamed Iron Crutchley. To tell you the truth, for this Emperor Martial Arts competition, I've specially organized a handicapped association to unite people with physical or mental disabilities. Martial artists with disabilities and disabilities will not be bullied. I don't care if you're blind. Why don't you join our association? This is my name card. I'm the vice president. As he spoke, Iron Crutchley handed a letter of introduction to Qin Hao. On it were the rules of the Handicapped Association. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot that you're blind. Hey, Deaf. Deaf, where are you? Hurry up and find Mute. Mute is eloquent. Tell him to read the rules of the association to this blind man. Oh. I'm really sorry. My leg is broken. My brain is still not clear. Sigh. Iron Crutchley patted his head hard to clear his head. Suddenly, he remembered that he was the only one in the Handicapped Association. There was no deaf or mute beside him. No, thank you for your kindness. Chapter 943. You don't know what's good for you. Tai Guiley scolded and walked away. He felt that it was a great honor for Qin Hao to join the Handicapped Association. Qin Hao didn't appreciate it. Squeak, squeak. At this moment, the sound of gears grinding could be heard faintly from behind Qin Hao. It was very heavy. Along with the gasps of surprise from the crowd, Qin Hao quickly asked Su Su what was going on. Su Su immediately turned around to look. When he turned around, he was stunned. What came into view was a very clumsy, strangely moving giant. The object was over 4 meters tall and was made of metal. The materials of the metal were different. Some were black and some were green, as if countless patches were pieced together. It was very uncoordinated and ugly. However, each piece of metal was very heavy and seemed indestructible. On its arms, legs, and shoulders, there were many tubular objects that could be used to attack. It was very similar to the ancient mecha recorded in books. Accompanied by a burly man inside the giant object, the giant mecha clumsily walked into the arena, attracting thousands of onlookers. It's like this. Su Su told Qin Hao what he saw. Mechanical clan? Qin Hao raised his eyebrows. Mechanical techniques weren't rare. A long time ago, there was an MO family that specialized in mechanical techniques and created all kinds of machines. Originally, these machines were only used to help the common people to improve their living standards and production capacity. They had poor functions and were very simple. However, one day, these machines were used in wars. They were constantly improved and turned into ferocious meat grinders. They were nightmarish existences. As time changed, the ability of martial artists became more and more powerful. Mechanical techniques gradually declined and left the stage of history. Because of this, the MO family declined and became a small family from a strong family in the mainland. Finally, they disappeared completely. Could it be that the man operating the mecha was a descendant of the MO family? Hey, friend, you're cutting the queue. When Qin Hao was thinking, a martial artist in the queue noticed that the man operating the mecha didn't follow the rules. He was squeezing his way to the registration area. Immediately, 3 or 4 martial artists blocked the path of the mecha. The four of them pressed their hands on the mecha, and balls of orange light flashed in their palms. They warned the man in the mecha that if he didn't get back, they would crush his mecha. Gotcha! However, an electric current suddenly spread out from the mecha and turned into lightning that spread over the four saint-level martial artists. The four of them were immediately paralyzed and trembled. Bang, bang, bang. Then, they were all sent flying by the electric current. Squeak, squeak. The mecha continued forward. You're courting death. The four people who had attacked earlier were furious. They didn't use their full strength because they were in the arena. In the end, they made a fool of themselves in front of everyone. Immediately, the four of them pounced on the mech again. The saint-level aura on their bodies was raised to the maximum. Two of them had reached the heavenly saint level. Powerful light gathered under their fists. They leaped up and punched the mech. Scram! The man inside the mecha was furious. He turned the mecha around, and a dazzling light flashed from the mecha. The originally cumbersome machine became extremely agile in an instant. It ran like a gust of wind, and it also jumped up. Whoosh! A long saber extended from the mechanical arm. The saber light flashed and cut one of the saint-level martial artists in half. Then a huge left fist punched out and collided with the two saint-level martial artists. Boom! There was a deafening sound, and a turbulent airwave exploded in the air. The two saint-level martial artists couldn't withstand the mecha's punch. They vomited blood in the air, and their bones were broken. The bones in his entire body were shattered, and his entire body smashed onto the ground like a pile of mud. He seemed to have been reduced to a cripple. The last saint-level martial artist saw that three of his companions were taken care of by the burly man in the mecha in the blink of an eye. He lost his courage and spread his primordial wings, wanting to run. Run? Do you think you can run? The burly man sneered. As soon as he finished speaking, a black cannon appeared on his shoulder. He adjusted the angle and aimed at the martial artist who was running away. Boom! A beam of light suddenly cut across the sky. The martial artist who was flying 1,000 meters away was blown into pieces. This scene shocked all the contestants on the 9th platform. With a seemingly cumbersome machine, the burly man killed four saint-level martial artists effortlessly. Two of them were even heavenly saints. What kind of terrifying power was this? At this moment, many contestants looked at the burly man floating in the air with awe in their eyes. You've ignited the anger of the mecha. Don't even think about living. The burly man said coldly. His voice echoed in the air. Swoosh! As the light on the mecha disappeared, it was as if its fire had been extinguished. With a boom, this cold-blooded machine that was 4 meters long fell to the ground heavily, leaving two huge footprints in the arena. Then it turned back to its cumbersome self like at the beginning. It made squeaking sounds and slowly moved toward the registration area. Perhaps others couldn't understand what the burly man meant, but Shin Hao understood. Igniting the anger of the mecha meant that the burly man was so angry that he turned on the switch of the mecha. Once the switch of the mecha was turned on, it would consume a large number of mysterious crystals in a short period of time. After all, the energy of the mecha was derived from the mysterious crystals. It was because of the mysterious crystals that it could move. Every time it swung its fist, every kick, every beam shot, and even every tiny turn it made, it was actually burning money. Without a large amount of money, one couldn't afford such an expensive thing. His opponent had wasted so much of the burly man's money. How could he let his opponent leave alive? The manager of the 9th platform did not stop the burly man from killing the four contestants. Contestants who had not made it to the official competition were like ants. It was better to get rid of them early. Gulp, gulp. The members of the Su family swallowed their saliva. They looked at the burly man who had finished his registration and was walking away. The Emperor Martial Arts competition was not only filled with hidden talents, but also super geniuses. There were also dwarfs, handicapped people, and strange people like the burly man in the mecha. First Elder, I'm a little scared. I don't want to participate. A young man from the Su family said in a trembling voice. The other young men nodded. The preliminary competition was not the official competition. Lives were not worth anything. Sir, The old man suggests that you don't participate today. If you encounter Iron Crutch Lee or the burly man in the mecha, you will most likely die. However, the great elder ignored the frightened youth of the Su family and hurriedly suggested to Qin Hao. Iron Crutchley was at the king stage, but he was not in his right mind. The first elder said that a king stage martial artist was not scary, but he was not in his right mind. If he went crazy, he might even kill his own father. There was also the man in the mecha. Although his aura didn't fluctuate at all from the beginning to the end, he was able to kill a sage like killing a dog with his clumsy mecha. His combat strength was comparable to a king stage master. The first elder broke out in a cold sweat for Qin Hao. Su Hao, from the Su family of Suzhou City of the Yu country under northern Qi. At this time, Qin had already gone forward to sign up, and he had a new name, Su Hao. You can't see. The manager waved his hand in front of Qin Hao. Yes, is there a problem? Qin Hao asked in return. The manager's face twitched as he curled his lips and said, No problem. I'm just giving you a piece of advice. Even if you become the champion, the princess will not marry a blind man. And that dwarf with a broken leg is simply a bunch of idiots who are daydreaming. Of course, it's impossible for someone like you, who was born in a small pill country, to win the championship. Haha, the manager laughed. You talk too much. Qin Hao turned around and left the stage to prepare for battle. How dare you scold me? The manager was furious as he stood up. Beside him, the old demon's eyes darkened. A high-end venerate aura that could topple mountains and overturn seas secretly suppressed the manager. Creak. The manager felt his knees go numb. His entire body felt as heavy as a mountain. He sat back down with a look of fear on his face. A high-level Yuan Venerate. You are just a mere second-level Yuan Venerate watchdog. How dare you be rude to my master? Be careful that the second master doesn't kill you. Also, I want to tell you that my master will become the champion of the Emperor Martial Tournament. Just wait and see how your Daliao's princess, Jingyuan, marries him. Chapter 944. Why is the honorary elder so happy? Some people were puzzled and asked the second elder, Is there a need to ask? It must be the honorary elder who secretly gave the administrator some benefits, making him deliberately assign weak opponents to blind so that he could sneak into the official competition. His methods are truly brilliant. Su Hua's father, Big Head Su, said without hesitation. His face was full of disdain. He was a peak sky sage and thought that he was stronger than Qin Hao. Therefore, his ranking would definitely be higher. However, Qin Hao's despicable tricks were really shameful. The rest of the Su family members nodded. Big Head Su's guess was definitely correct. It was good to be rich. Qin Hao prepared for battle on the 9th platform. Iron Crutchley, who had signed up earlier, went up. When Iron Crutchley went up, his opponent saw that he was a cripple and immediately mocked him. However, he swung his crutch and hit his opponent's head. That opponent screamed and flew off the platform. He was beaten until he became a retard. 10 matches in a row, Iron Crutchley won every single one of them. Without taking a breather, Iron Crutchley successfully advanced to the main competition. It was not that his opponents were weak, but that Iron Crutchley was very strong. In the last battle, he met a level 6 Yuan Monarch. However, he was also beaten by his crutch. The audience on the 9th platform was shocked for a long time. They all guessed that Iron Crutchley was at least a level 7 Yuan Monarch. However, Qin Hao felt that Iron Crutchley was not just a level 7 Yuan Monarch. He was a peak level 8 Yuan Monarch. He was only a hair's breadth away from level 9. Moreover, Iron Crutchley was not just a level 8 Yuan Monarch. Qin Hao felt that there was something strange about him. He could not pinpoint exactly what was strange about him. He would have to observe him in the future. Next, it was the Mecha Burly Man's turn. As soon as he appeared, he defeated 6 people effortlessly. His momentum was very strong and was comparable to Iron Crutchley's. The difference was that Iron Crutchley only crippled his opponents or made them into retards. However, the Mecha Burly Man killed all the contestants on the platform. His methods were very bloody. There are still 4 left. Come at me together. The mecha burly man did not want to waste time. His time was very valuable. To be exact, he was burning money every second after he activated his mecha. Therefore, he simply let the remaining 4 people attack together. However, when the administrator read out the names of the remaining 4 contestants, they all chose to forfeit. This was because the mecha burly man had already killed a level 5 Yuan Monarch. The strongest among the 4 of them was only a level 1 Yuan Monarch. They could only lament their bad luck to have met a cold-blooded robot like the mecha burly man. They were no match for him. A bunch of cowards. The man in the mecha was a little dissatisfied. Shortly after, the engine of the mecha was turned off. He moved his legs and got off the stage with a squeaking sound. This indicated that he had successfully passed and entered the Imperial Martial Grand Competition. Whoosh! The first elder heaved a sigh of relief. I was really worried that Mr. would run into Iron Crutch Lee and the Mecha Man. It seems that Mr. is quite lucky. He didn't become someone's cannon fodder. Hee hee. Big Head Sue sneered. Luck? It must have been arranged on purpose. As for whether or not he would become someone else's cannon fodder, that was not certain. Maybe there were other masters in the field, not just Iron Crutch Lee and a mecha guy. In Sue Dadu's heart, he eagerly hoped that Qin Hao would lose the match. It would be best if he died on the stage. He also hoped that he would be able to advance smoothly so that his status in the family could be raised and he could become the idol of everyone. Next match, Su Hao versus Wang Chulon. Both contestants, please get on the stage. The manager of the 9th stage shouted. Finally, it was Qin Hao's turn to go on stage. Mister, it's your turn. Do your best. Su Su was inexplicably excited. He knew very well that Qin Hao was a capable person. Perhaps he wasn't as strong as Iron Crutch Lee and the Mecha Man, but he was definitely not as simple as a profound sage. Su Su wanted to see how strong Qin Hao's full strength was. While speaking, he helped Qin Hao up by his arm and helped him up the stairs of the 9th stage. No need. Qin Hao pushed Su Su's hand away. For him, even if he couldn't see the stage with his eyes, he was very familiar with it in his heart. Qin Hao did not seem to use his Yuan Qi. He merely stood on the tip of his toes and placed his hands behind his back. His posture was straight as he landed on the stage. His bearing was very elegant. Everyone, look, it's Mister's turn. So his name is Su Hao. No wonder he's living in the Su family. It's really fate. Seeing Qin Hao take the stage, the Su family members watching the match felt a little excited. This was also the first time they had heard of Qin Hao's real name. So it's you. Opposite Qin Hao stood a young man named Wang Chulon. It was also the curly-haired young man who had mocked Qin Hao during the registration. Good. The heavens really arranged for us to meet. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been beaten up by a cold-blooded machine. Next, I'll pay you back with interest. I'll pay you back 10 times, 20 times. After recognizing Qin Hao, Wang Chulon spoke through gritted teeth, his eyes full of vengeful anger. Oof. How dare you insult me? I'll make you lose. Below the stage, the manager's lips curled into a malicious grin. With his eyesight as a second-level Yuan venerate, he had long seen through Qin Hao's trashy low-level profound sage cultivation. In that case, I'll arrange a mid-level profound sage for you. This is the result of insulting me. You want to marry the princess and dream of becoming the champion? I'll crush your dreams and beat you back to reality. In his opinion, Qin Hao was definitely not a match for the curly-haired young man. Furthermore, Qin Hao was blind. Get off the stage with a bang. As he spoke, the curly-haired young man on the stage also moved. The powerful aura of a 5th-level profound sage surged as he threw a punch at Qin Hao's face. This punch looked so powerful that it made the Su family members scream in fright. Mister, be careful, Su shouted out subconsciously. Wait! Suddenly, Qin Hao shouted to stop the match. Zung! 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 The curly-haired young man had rushed forward too fiercely. He almost couldn't stop his leg and fell under Qin Hao's crotch. He was furious. Why did you suddenly shout to stop the match? Oh, I understand. You want to forfeit, right? Are you afraid that I'll kill you? I have to say that you are really a coward. Being an opponent with a gutless martialist like you is the greatest shame of my life. It's my fault. No. Qin Hao shook his head. I didn't say that I wanted to forfeit. This time, not only was Wang Chulan stunned, but the audience and the venerable level manager were also stunned. What was going on? Kid, you maliciously stopped the match. According to the rules, you should be dealt with as the loser. The manager of the 9th stage said. Which eye of yours saw me stop the match? I only said, wait a minute. Because I don't want to fight one person. I want to fight 10 people. 10 people at the same time, understand? Qin Hao slowly turned around and looked in the direction of the voice. His deep eyes met the manager's as if they could penetrate his body. Chapter 945. Fighting 10 at the same time? Are you sure you're not joking? He asked. Crazy. Sir must be crazy. The curly-haired warrior's aura is even stronger than Sir's. It's already difficult to fight one, let alone 10 at the same time. The Su family members were in an uproar. Big Head Su simply laughed out loud. Sir, you're too impulsive. You can't do that. The great elder hurriedly stopped him. Qin Hao was indifferent. He repeated to the manager, I want to fight 10. Haha, you're good. You won't die if you don't seek death. All right, I'll give you a grand opportunity. The manager's face turned cold as he shouted, Wang He, Wang Zian, Wang Ming, Wang Weikai. He called out the names of 9 people in one breath. All of them had the surname Wang and asked them to go on stage. Blind man, you dare to look down on me? On the stage, Wang Chulan was furious. His face was trembling with anger. He waved his hand fiercely at the audience. Zian, Ahi, Weikai, Brother Ming, all of you come up. This person is here to be tortured. He's a masochist. If we beat him up, he'll feel uncomfortable. Ha, I'm coming. I'm coming too. Today, let us Wang brothers trample on this arrogant blind man. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 9 figures flew onto the stage one after another. These 9 people happened to be Wang Chulan's friends. They were from the same hometown and had come together to participate in the competition. 6 profound sages, 3 heavenly sages, and 1 first-level Yuan monarch. When the other 9 people stood side by side with Wang Chulan, Qin Hao accurately judged everyone's cultivation through the aura they emitted. Then, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he hooked his finger at them. I'm in a hurry. Show me your full strength. Don't disappoint me. He's actually so arrogant. Did I give you face? You don't know how terrifying the person standing in front of you is. Not only are your eyes blind, but your brain is also F*King blind. Why are you talking nonsense with him? Brothers, let's get him. Wang Chulan roared and rushed out like a leopard. His 2 hands frantically slashed at Qin Hao's face. Wolf Fong Mad Fist. Sun Destroying Divine Palm. Mighty King Kong Leg. Iron Head Technique. Crazy Toxic Dragon Drill. Rumble. 10 people attacked at the same time. Streaks of surging claw light, mighty fist shadows, and a huge bald head that looked like a giant egg that could break a mountain. The attacks covered the sky and covered the earth. Like a dense rainstorm, they rained down on Qin Hao. Many of the audience members covered their eyes and couldn't bear to watch. In the next second, Qin Hao's ending was destined to be tragic. Even the large number of contestants felt their scalps go numb when they saw the overwhelming attacks on the stage. How much courage did it take to say that the challenge was a personal one? However, it was fortunate that Qin Hao was blind. Otherwise, if he had seen such a terrifying scene, he would have been scared to death. Hee, blind man, this time you're finished. Big Head Su let out a carefree laugh. Along with this, the great elder and the rest of the elders of the Su family shook their heads and sighed. Originally, Qin Hao had avoided Iron Crutch Li and the Mecha Man and had the hope of entering the official competition. He was the one who had played himself to death. Susu was also extremely nervous. His small hands were full of sweat, and his neck couldn't help but shrink into his clothes. However, what happened next did not happen as everyone had expected Qin Hao to be pressed to the ground and rubbed against it. All of a sudden, he flashed and disappeared from his original spot. Like a gust of wind, he moved through the gaps between Wang Chulan and the other 10 people. His speed was not very fast. Even the Sky Origin Grandmasters below the stage, as well as the ordinary citizens, could see him clearly. However, the movements of Wang Chulan and the other contestants on the stage seemed to have slowed down. They were crawling like snails and could not keep up with Qin Hao's movements. They could only watch as the other party walked past them and easily avoided their attacks. As for them, there was nothing they could do. Swoosh! The scene flashed. Qin Hao had already moved from opposite Wang Chulan and the other contestants to behind them. Then, as if nothing had happened, he walked down the steps of the battle arena slowly with his hands behind his back. On the stage, Wang Chulan and the other contestants were all staring at him with their arms raised high. Looking at their expressions, it seemed that they had yet to react and were all frozen in place. "Sir, let's go home." After Qin Hao stepped down from the stage, he called out to Su Su. "Go home." Su Su stuttered as he replied, "Stop right there. You haven't finished your match yet. If you take the initiative to walk down from the stage, I have to announce that you have lost." The manager hurriedly stepped forward to stop Qin Hao. As soon as he spoke, thump, 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 the sound of people falling to the ground could be heard from the stage. The manager turned his head to look and was shocked. Wang Chulan and the other contestants on the stage were all lying on the ground. This. Are my eyes blind? Sir defeated all 10 of them in an instant. I didn't even see how he did it. The Su family members who were watching the match rubbed their eyes frantically, including the Great Elder. Illusion? It must be an illusion. Big Head Su seemed to have lost his soul as he stuttered. "Oh yes, you haven't announced that I have advanced. Then I will have to trouble you, sir." At this moment, Qin Hao smiled at the manager who had stopped him. When the manager saw Qin Hao smile, he felt a chill run down his spine. To be honest, even he did not see how Qin Hao defeated the 10 contestants. Although Qin Hao's movements were very slow, as if he was walking, he walked past Wang Chulan and the other contestants. From the beginning to the end, Qin Hao did not show any signs of making a move. Could it be that at that moment he relied on? The manager opened his mouth wide as he thought of something. Aura. That's right. Using aura to blast into the opponent's body and forcefully disperse the opponent's body. There was no need to make a move at all. However, this method required the user's cultivation to be at least 10 times higher than the opponent's. Otherwise, with just 1 or 2 levels higher than the user's cultivation, the user could only intimidate the opponent or force them to kneel on the ground. It was impossible to knock them out in one move. The manager had underestimated Qin Hao. He had underestimated him too much. Even Yuan monarchs of the same level could be knocked out. It was enough to show that Qin Hao's combat power was not weaker than Tai Guai Li and the Mecha Fighter. "Kid, you are really good at pretending to be weak. Even I was fooled by you." After a long while, the manager let out a suppressed sneer. Originally, he wanted Qin Hao to lose. "Now, I announce that you have won. Come to the northern region to participate in the official competition in 7 days. This is the token for advancement." As he spoke, the manager's palm flashed. He took out a silver token from his spatial ring and threw it to Qin Hao. With Su Su's help, Qin Hao leisurely walked toward the tavern, leaving behind an invincible and lonely back view for the other contestants to worship. After Qin Hao left, a large number of discussions immediately sounded at the scene. He, second master, said earlier that my master will successfully advance and become a champion. He will marry your princess. You, who has just become a supremacy, can just wait and see. The old demon secretly sent a voice transmission to the manager and left with a hearty laugh. Creak. As the old demon's laughter gradually faded away, the manager clenched his fists. It was absolutely impossible for the daughter of Emperor Shao, Princess Jingwei of Daliao, to marry a blind man. After taking 2 deep breaths, the manager calmed himself down and sneered in his heart. He was too nervous. Even if Qin Hao hid his cultivation level, he was at most a level 7 or 8 Yuan monarch. This level of cultivation level was very ordinary among the official contestants of the Emperor Martial competition. There were too many people who were stronger than Qin Hao, and there was no lack of peak Yuan monarchs. not to mention the first-rate geniuses who had the essence soul. Above the first-rate geniuses were the most famous Zhanyue Mansion, the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, and the disciples of various big families, such as the Song family. The top disciples of these families and sect were all exceptional geniuses who were half a step away from becoming supremacies. Even more terrifying than the first-rate geniuses were the Crown Prince of Northern Yin and the Prince of Northern Qi. Their father was a Monarch realm expert. The sons of emperors were more talented in bloodline than the first-rate geniuses. They were the ultimate geniuses. Qin Hao was just a blind man. How could he fight his way through, enter the finals, and become the champion? Chapter 946. How could this be? It's impossible. Wang Chulan and the others were knocked out by Qin Hao easily and were still unconscious. Big Head Su was full of doubts. Not only were there heaven sages, but there was also a king stage. Others did not know Qin Hao's cultivation level, but Big Head Su knew that Qin Hao was a profound sage. How could he defeat a king stage? It seems that he has not only bribed the administrator, but also the contestants. The second elder said as he pointed at the 10 unconscious contestants. These fellows are actually acting with a blind man. Humph, despicable and shameless. Father, what should we do? Big Head Su asked anxiously. Qin Hao's status in the Su family would only get higher if he successfully entered the official competition. This was not an outcome he wanted to see. I've saved up a lot of money over the years. Come and participate in the competition tomorrow. I will use the same method to help you advance. Big Head, you have to do your best. The second elder patted Big Head Su's shoulder and said earnestly, I will not let you down. Big Head Su said excitedly. He turned to look at Qin Hao's back view with a provocative expression. Cheating? I could do it too. Just wait and see tomorrow. Sir, how much strength did you use just now? How strong are you exactly? On the way back, Su asked as he walked. Qin Hao's mysteriousness and strength had increased by another level. Even a king stage expert was defeated by Mr. However, Mr.'s performance was too casual and did not show any signs of attacking. Su cannot tell it all. In fact, if Qin Hao did not want others to see his cultivation level, there were not many people in the world who could judge his true strength. About 20%. Even I'm not sure how strong I am exactly. Qin Hao shook his head. The bloody battle at the Blue River Mountain Range was the most serious injury he had suffered since his rebirth. Qin Hao had lost his sight because of it. However, it was not like he did not gain anything. During this period of time, Qin Hao's consciousness had been sealed, and his physical body had been nourished by the spiritual energy of all living things. After being remolded, Qin Hao had a new breakthrough in his cultivation base. Currently, he was at the peak of the 6th level and was only a small step away from becoming a 7th level Yuan Monarch. Apart from that, he also obtained a new innate ability. Just now, Qin Hao had used his new innate ability to limit the speed of Wang Chulan and the others, making their movements extremely slow. And this new mystique was related to Qin Hao's eyes. It could be considered a blessing in disguise. This was also the reason why his eyes didn't recover as quickly as his body did. This was because this ability was still evolving. Once Qin Hao regained his vision, there would be a great surprise. This was his intuition. Although I don't know how strong I am, at the very least, I'm not any weaker than Iron Crutch Lee and the Mecha Guy. Qin Hao touched Su's head. Really, Su was shocked. He had seen how terrifying Iron Crutch Lee and the Mecha Guy were with his own eyes. Qin Hao smiled. He wanted to say that his cultivation base might be higher than Iron Crutch Lee and the Mecha Guy. However, the two of them had not revealed their full strength yet, so it was hard to judge. At this moment, Qin Hao suddenly stopped in his tracks. He had sensed a familiar aura in front of him. He had seen this aura before. If he was not wrong, it belonged to the descendant of the Mo family, the Mecha Guy. When Qin Hao sensed the aura, Su also saw it. He immediately exclaimed in surprise. Under an old tree in front of him, the Mecha Guy was sitting on the ground. He had already taken off his machine, and the terrifying 4-meter-tall machine was parked beside him. It was noon, and the participating martialists had all gone to the restaurant to eat. The man was also eating. However, the man's food was very crude. It cannot even be called food. First, he took off a shabby cloth bag from his body and took out 5 steam buns. The steam buns looked like they had been stored for a long time. They were air-dried and hard, and there were mottled spots of mildew on them. If it were other martialists, they would have thrown them away. Ordinary people would not eat them. However, the man cherished them very much. He stared at the steamed buns in his palm for a long time, looking very hungry. He was very big, and he was wearing a cumbersome mecha. He had fought several matches in a row, so he had consumed a lot of energy. But in the end, he stuffed 3 steamed buns back, grabbed the remaining 2, and threw them into his mouth. He chewed hard like he was biting stones, raised his neck, and swallowed them into his stomach. Immediately, he glanced to his side and saw a lizard crawling through the grass. The man's eyes were filled with joy, revealing an expression as if he had found a treasure. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the muddy lizard. No matter how much the lizard struggled in his hand, it was still alive. He swallowed it. In the end, he even licked his lips, showing a look of unsatisfied desire. It was obvious that he had not eaten meat for a long time. So disgusting, Susu told Qin Hao what he had seen. Qin Hao frowned. Help me over there. It's you. Sensing someone walking over, the man looked up and showed a vigilant expression. Friend, are you a descendant of the Mo family? Qin Hao smiled kindly. The man was shocked. In today's world, very few people knew about the existence of the Mo family. In the eyes of the world, the Mo family had long been dead. No comment. The man's surprise disappeared in a flash, and he said coldly. As he spoke, he untied the samurai belt at his waist and took out half of a silver vine covered with thorns. These thorns did not seem to exist in the man's eyes. He grabbed it with his big hand and pulled it hard. Crash! The thorns of the silver vine fell off. Then, the man held the vine and gnawed on it bite by bite. Silver frost vine, a 6th-level sacred medicine. It grows in oases deep in the desert. Only 1 out of every 100 oases can survive. It is ranked 3rd in the entire 6th-level medicine spectrum in terms of rarity. Its effect is to relieve nerve pain and strengthen meridians. And the body's ability. It seems that your internal organs, including your body, are deteriorating under the influence of the mecha, Qin Hao said lightly. Chapter 9:47. Qin Hao smiled elegantly. Although my eyes are blind, my nose hasn't lost its sense of smell. No matter what grade of medicinal materials there were on the continent, Dindi could smell them. Ahem. Sorry. The man was a little embarrassed, but he was still shocked inside. He was 5 or 6 steps away from Qin Hao, but the other party could clearly smell the silver frost vine he ate. Moreover, he knew that his body was eroded by the mecha. I have no malice, and I don't covet your mecha. I'm just curious about you. In my early years, I was lucky to meet a senior who was a descendant of the Mo family. To tell you the truth, I'm an alchemist. If you need help, I can help you. I can relieve the symptoms of your body's deterioration. Qin Hao smiled gently. However, his smile was not very natural. In fact, Qin Hao had never met any senior from the Mo family. Well, I admit that I'm very interested in your mecha. I'm afraid I have to disappoint you. I'm not a descendant of the Mo family. Moreover, the Mo family is not the only one who knows mechanism in the world, right? My name is Gongshu Jian. I don't need your help. You can get out. The man waved his hand coldly and drove Qin Hao away. Why are you like this? Susu immediately said angrily. Mr. Qin helped him out of kindness, but the man didn't appreciate it and even scolded him. Qin Hao's mouth twitched. This time, he couldn't blame the man for being rude, but Qin Hao's mistake. After all, the mechanism of the Gongshu family was not weaker than the Mo family. And since ancient times, these two families had been enemies. Sorry to disturb you, Qin Hao said apologetically and left with Susu. Although he was curious about the man's mecha, he knew that if he was too impatient, it would arouse the hostility of the other party. At the very least, the man was now hostile towards him. But before leaving, Qin Hao turned around and put 500 mysterious crystals in front of the man. It's not much. I'm not rich. I really want to make friends with you. Take it and have a good meal. So let's go. Qin Hao called and gradually disappeared from the man's sight with Su Su. The man refused Qin Hao's charity. He even wanted to sweep away the things that Qin Hao had put down. When he saw the Xian crystals, he restrained himself. Then, looking at the clumsy and shabby old man next to him, the man gritted his teeth and silently put the Xian crystals left by Qin Hao into his sumaru pouch. There weren't many black crystals left for the mecha. Even the man did not know if he could survive the Monarch martial competition. Now, every little bit that he could add was a little bit more. As for eating, how could he bear to use Xian crystals to eat? After all, he was affected by the corrosion of the mecha. The mechanical toxins had consumed his entire body. He didn't even know when he would collapse. Perhaps the next match will be the end of his life. It really didn't matter to him what he ate. He only wanted to fulfill the dreams of his family's elders, to prove that mechanical techniques could still be used, that they could still provide power for martial artists. Mechanical techniques really did not decline. Sir, why are you helping him? Su Su rarely saw Qin Hao being interested in strangers. Could it be that Sir was interested in the man's mechanical techniques? But mechanical techniques had long fallen behind the times. Once a martial artist reached the advanced stage of the king stage, he would have terrifying strength and could defeat all mecha warriors. A clumsy mecha would consume a large amount of Xian crystals. It was not worth it. In front of a supreme stage martial artist, it was as fragile as a piece of paper. Kid, why are you asking so many questions? Qin Hao scolded jokingly. Was mechanical techniques really declining? Not necessarily. It depended on who used it and where it was used. If the man was willing to train a group of elite mecha warriors for himself, it would help Qin Hao to take back his homeland in the East Continent. 7 days later, the preliminaries were over. Next would be the official competition. None of the martial artists who could defeat 10 opponents in a single breath and enter the main competition were mediocre people. Qin Hao's challenge would become more and more difficult. During these 7 days, someone was bored enough to make a list of imperial martial artists for this competition. The rankings were based on the fame of the contestants as well as their performance in the preliminary round. It was a reasonable arrangement. Iron Crutch Lee and the man in the mecha from the 9th platform of the Northern Division were both on the list. Iron Crutch Lee was ranked 981, and the man in the mecha was ranked 997. This list only recorded the top 1,000 contestants. Sir, compared to the other divisions, the competition in the Northern Division is more intense. Other than Iron Crutch Lee and the man in the mecha, there are a few other terrifying guys. On the 2nd platform, there was someone called Yi Shuihan. With just one breath, he was able to get the top 10. He blew his king stage opponent out of Daliao's imperial city and disappeared. Currently, the Shao clan's imperial guards are busy searching for the missing people. In the tavern, the first elder explained to Qin Hao what had happened in the past few days. After all, the 10 contestants who fought against Yi Shuihan in the 2nd platform were all children of Daliao's officials. They were all favored by the audience and were also seeded contestants in this competition. In the end, they were all defeated by Yi Shuihan. Yi Shuihan's strength was unfathomable. In the first elder's opinion, even someone as powerful as Iron Crutchley was not qualified to carry Yi Shuihan's shoes. There is something even more ridiculous. On the 7th platform, there is a contestant called Chun Wanqin. She is a girl, and she said that she wants to marry Princess Jinghua. All the contestants who fought against her turned into ice. Fear flashed in the 3rd elder's eyes as he said this. A girl marrying another girl was scary enough. Chapter 948. Wanqin and Shuihan. Qin Hao muttered in his heart, and a look of surprise flashed across his face. Unexpectedly, it came faster than he had expected. He originally thought that the Shiliang people would only arrive at Beijiang when the competition was on track. Unexpectedly, not only did Yi Shuihan and Chen Wanqin come early, but they also participated in the preliminaries. The 10 missing disciples of Daliao officials are all extraordinarily powerful. They were originally sent by the royal family to stop the strong contestants, but Yi Shui-han took care of them alone. This time, he's in the limelight. Many people secretly speculate that Yi Shui-han's cultivation is not weaker than that of Song Xiang, the eldest son of the Song family of Beiyan. In fact, Yi Shui-han and Song Xiang are tied at 15th place on the imperial martial ranking list. The first elder was shocked. He had never heard of Yi Shui-han before. He was simply a nobody. But after one competition, this person's limelight was on par with Song Xiang's. Moreover, because of his outstanding temperament and coquettish appearance, he won the favor of many girls in Beijiang. The girls in Beijiang even formed a youth fan club for Yi Shui-han. Chen Wanqin is not as shocked as Yi Shui-han on the surface. However, she is ranked 27th on the imperial martial ranking list. Her strength is not to be underestimated. The third elder said immediately. Yi Shui-han had stolen the souls of the girls in Beijiang, but Chen Wanqin attracted the attention of thousands of young men. She was like a goddess. Many young masters and sons of the princes of the big families in Beijiang declared that if Chen Wanqin failed in the competition and could not marry the princess, they would be willing to marry into the Chen family. Ha ha! Hearing this, Qin Hao could not help but laugh. Sir, you're still in the mood to laugh. You should be crying. After all, Chen Wanqin and Yi Shui-han are both in the competition area. You can easily meet them in the competition. Just thinking about it makes me feel terrified. The Su family's elders discussed. At this time, the fourth elder straightened his back, stood up, and said vividly, "If you want to talk about terror, I'm afraid that in the entire Northern Division, no one is more terrifying than the monsters from the Western Liang Silk Country." Oh, Shiliang people? Qin Hao was stunned. He guessed that the next person would be someone close to him. But Western Liang didn't have any silk-producing kingdom. Yes, it's the Silk Nation. The fourth elder nodded heavily. It was a contestant called Xiaogua. He single-handedly defeated more than 1,000 contestants from number 35. If it weren't for the manager crying for his parents and going up on stage to stop him, he would have continued to fight. Contestants number 15 have all been eliminated. The fourth elder seemed to be very prejudiced against the spinning silk country. He was shouting and yelling with righteous indignation. Later, Qin Hao learned that the fourth elder's son was participating in the competition on number 35. He was only grazed by Xiaogua's fist and became semi-disabled. He also learned from a fourth elder that the spinning silk country was a small barbaric country in western Liang. It was rich in silk. Xiaogua was the local prince of the spinning silk country. At present, his ranking on the imperial martial ranking list was second only to Yi Shui-han. He was ranked 16th. Qin Hao nodded. Okay, as expected of Brother Melon, he was so generous. He single-handedly defeated more than 1,000 people. According to the fourth elder, Xiaogua seemed to be interested in the manager and wanted to fight with him. In addition to Yi Shui-han, Chen Wanqin, and Xiaogua, there is a contestant called Yi Wuhin in number 44. He is also a freak. His speed is so fast that even a manager can't see him clearly. All of Yi Wuhin's opponents have given up after seeing his speed. Currently, he is ranked 36th on the imperial martial ranking list. There is a contestant called Hao Zhixing in number 23. Although his speed is not as fast as Yi Shui-han's, his primordial qi is not as strong as Xiaogua's, and he is not as strong as Yi Shui-han's. He is like a ghost who comes and goes without a trace. He is given the terrifying title of Death's Valet. Currently, he is ranked 50th in the imperial martial ranking list. These people are all in the Northern Division. Sir, we suggest that you change your division quickly. If you encounter any of them, you will definitely lose. The elders bowed and begged. Qin Hao had finally made it to the official competition. However, so many fierce characters had suddenly appeared in the Northern Division. They were all in the top 100 of the imperial martial ranking list. In particular, Yi Shui-han and Xiaogua were in the top 20. Their strength was quite terrifying. After all, the eldest son of the Song family, Song Xiang, and the eldest disciple of the Zhanyue mansion, Sha Qiandao, we're only in the top 20 of the Imperial Martial ranking list. What about me? Where am I ranked? Qin Hao asked with great interest. The first elder frowned. He found it difficult to speak. Sir, you must be joking. How can you be ranked? You must know that there are many mysterious experts in this Imperial Martial competition. Many of them are from the southern region and the east continent. Even Murong Zijuan, the crown prince of northern Yen and the prince of northern Yen, who are known as the sons of the two emperors in the northern region. Qi Yuan is only ranked 4th and 5th. As for the top 3, they are still vacant. This is because no one knows if there is anyone stronger than Murong Zijuan and Qi Yuan. The second elder said, Is that so? Qin Hao nodded. It doesn't matter. Then I should be in the top 10, like Yi Shui Han. After all, I've also defeated 10 opponents in one move. Your 10 opponents were all shrimp soldiers and crab generals. Can they be compared to the sons of Daliao's generals who fought against Yi Shui Han? Su Data coldly snorted. His face was filled with anger. He had lost. That's right. He had lost in the preliminaries. At the beginning, he had thought that his father would give benefits to the administrator. Like Qin Hao, he had chosen the administrator of the 9th platform. He had wanted to assign weaker opponents to him and get away with it. But who would have thought that the administrator would slap Su Data's father, sending him flying and almost beating him half to death? This was the Imperial Martial competition held to select a prince consort for Princess Jingwei of Daliao. How could he allow Su Datu to bribe and humiliate the administrator? In short, Su Data had lost. Moreover, he had lost miserably. In the first round, he had encountered a king-level expert. Thus, he was very angry at the moment. He could not understand why the administrator could accept Qin Hao's benefits, but not his. Could it be that his father had given too little money? Yes, that must be it. Could it be that I am not even in the top 10? Qin Hao felt that this was not possible. Although he did not know how strong Yi Shui Han was, Qin Hao was not afraid of him at all. Sir, don't be angry. Let me tell you the truth. You did not enter the Imperial Martial role at all. In fact, there are many people like you who defeated 10 competitors. However, Yi Shui Han is the only one who defeated 10 peak Yuan monarchs. The Imperial Martial role, only the top 1,000 competitors are included. Iron Crutch Li is so fierce, but he is only ranked 981. Do you understand now? The Great Elder said bravely. He did not want to hurt Qin Hao's confidence. Phew! Qin Hao took a deep breath, nodded, and stood up. All right, I understand. Next, I will enter the Imperial Martial role. Let's go and compete now. Today was the first day of the official competition. Just like the preliminaries, the competition was the most intense. Chapter 949. Shui Han, ranked 15th on the Emperor Martial Roll. Guadi, ranked 16th on the Emperor Martial Roll. Wan Qin, ranked 20th on the Emperor Martial Roll. Even Yi Wuhan is here. He's ranked 36th on the Emperor Martial Roll. There's also someone called Hao Zhixing, ranked 50th. They're all in the Northern Division. It's obviously intentional. Qin Hao pondered as he walked, and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. Great, great. How shameless. Although the rankings on the Emperor Martial Roll were a little off, it was still quite reliable. To be fair, Shui Han's cultivation was indeed above Guadi and Yi Wuhan's, but Yi Wuhan's ranking should not be so far off in the top 2. Wan Qin is really naughty. Why are you trying to snatch Xiao Han from me? Do you think that you can snatch little Han away from me? Who is Hao Zhixing? Qin Hao did not remember knowing this person. However, this person had appeared with Guadi and Shui Han, and his name had the word Hao in it. Could he be Xing? Did he change his name on purpose? Qin Hao shook his head. According to the first elder's words, this person was a man and could not be Xing. But who exactly was he? Forget it. Forget it. In short, Qin Hao had a feeling that this person was related to Shui Han and Guadi. The Emperor Martial Roll was really despicable. It did not give me a ranking. Qin Hao swore that he would definitely make it into the role today. How could his ranking be lower than Guadi's? He would be a failure as a big brother. Sir, I hope that you can go and watch Suer's competition today. Suer has already made it into the official competition. At that moment, Su murmured. Although the competition in the children's division was not as cruel as the adult division, they still needed to defeat 3 opponents to advance. Susu had defeated 3 opponents in 3 rounds. He had suffered a lot in the 3 rounds. He had worked very hard. However, today was the official competition, so he was not confident. The participants in the official competition in the children's division were generally mid-level Sky Grandmasters. Susu was currently only a 7th-level Sky Grandmaster. A 14-year-old Sky Grandmaster was already amazing. However, there were too many geniuses in this year's Emperor Martial role. If Sir is by Su-er's side, I will feel safe. Susu continued. He spoke very softly, afraid that he would be rejected by Qin Hao again. After all, Qin Hao had rejected him once. His father had left the family when he was very young. As Qin Hao arrived and carefully taught him, Susu began to feel some sort of emotion. It was as if he was facing his own father. If Qin Hao was here, his confidence would increase by a lot. All right. Qin Hao touched Susu's head and didn't refuse him this time. He continued, if you win the competition by yourself today, I will give you a surprise. According to Qin Hao's evaluation of Susu, it was already his limit to finish the official competition. It was impossible for him to continue fighting. If he wanted to continue fighting, he would have to increase his strength. Qin Hao had long been prepared for this. I will try my best. Thank you, sir. Susu was delighted. As they spoke, the 2 of them arrived at the northern competition zone. Compared to 7 days ago, the number of people in the northern competition zone was much less. Although the scene was still lively, about 90% of the contestants had been eliminated. After all, 7 days ago, 1 person had to defeat 10 people to advance. In the end, only 10% of the contestants were left. If 100,000 contestants participated in the competition, only 10,000 people would be able to continue today. This elimination rate was indeed quite cruel. When they arrived at the 9th platform, the original platform had disappeared. It was replaced by a brand new battle platform that was 3 meters taller than the previous one. The 50 battle platforms in the northern competition zone had now been merged into 10. Susu told Qin Hao what he saw. Then, he saw a huge mecha that was more than 4 meters tall. What a coincidence. Hello, Gongshu Jian. Although Qin Hao couldn't see, the 2 of them were so close that they could feel each other's aura again. The burly man named Gongshu Jian was repairing his mecha below the platform. He had finished participating in the competition. As expected, he had advanced again. His opponent just now was a level 5 Yuan Monarch. He had been careless, and his opponent had destroyed a part of his mecha, but it wasn't a big problem. Blind, you should give up on the competition. None of the opponents today are cowards. They all have a few tricks up their sleeves and are hiding powerful trump cards. I was careless, and my opponent's trump card blew a hole in my mecha. You are blind. You are naturally inferior. Force. Gongshu Jian said coldly. He wasn't looking down on Qin Hao. On the contrary, he was kindly reminding him. However, he wasn't good at expressing himself, so it sounded particularly harsh. After saying that, Gongshu Jian continued repairing his mecha. The next round was the semifinals. His opponent would be stronger, so he had to maintain his mecha's combat power. Thank you. Qin Hao nodded and smiled. Blind? All of a sudden, another familiar voice was heard. It was Cripple Iron Crutchley. What a coincidence. Blind, are you interested in joining my handicapped association? As soon as they met, Iron Crutchley began to rope Qin Hao in. No. Thank you for your kindness. Qin Hao refused. He wasn't blind. He was just temporarily blind. You don't know what's good for you. Deaf and mute, let's go. Just like before, Iron Crutchley cursed and turned to leave. Judging from his chaotic aura, Iron Crutchley had also finished his match. Seeing how happy he was, it wasn't hard to guess that he had won. TSK, he is obviously the same person. What guy with a mental problem? Susu pouted. There were no deaf and mute people around Iron Crutchley. He had been talking to the air. The corner of Qin Hao's mouth twitched again. It was hard to imagine how Iron Crutchley, who was mentally retarded, managed to survive. Everyone look, it's Yi Shuihan, Xiaogua, and Chun Wanqin. They're going to fight. Oh my god, Platform 8 is Yi Wuan. Platform 10 is Death's Attendant. Hao Zhixing. At this time, the whole northern competition area was in an uproar. Several fierce people who were in the limelight in the preliminaries actually appeared at the same time. Such a gorgeous lineup was a feast for the eyes. At the same time, it also announced that Xiaogua's opponents would probably end the competition this time. Guadi, Shueihan, Wanqin, Qin Hao's body suddenly trembled. Following the direction of the crowd's discussion, he sensed Yi Shueihan, Xiaogua, and the others through their aura. Even though he couldn't see, Qin Hao could feel that Yi Shueihan and the others were approaching his position little by little, walking through the crowd of thousands of martial artists. At this time, Xiaogua, who was wearing a pair of shorts and looking like a gladiator, suddenly stopped and stared in the direction of Qin Hao with a much more mature face through the crowd. However, there were too many people, and he couldn't see Qin Hao at all. What's wrong? Yi Shueihan, who was beside Xiaogua, secretly asked through voice transmission. I seem to have sensed Big Brother's aura. There are too many people, and it's too messy. I can't pinpoint the specific location. Maybe it's an illusion. Xiaogua said with some loneliness. The moment they received the message from the old demon, they rushed to Beijiang without stopping and used various methods to forge a second identity. Yi Shuihan's second identity was the son of a wealthy businessman in Beiyin, but Xiaogua still chose to appear as a Western Liang person. Then they secretly checked the list of all the contestants. There were people named Tian Hao, Yang Hao, Su Hao, Hu Hao, and Quan Tian Hao, but they didn't find Qin Hao's name. Chapter 950. Don't worry. Given Boss's abilities, advancing is a piece of cake. His ranking on the Emperor Martial Roll is definitely not lower than ours. Yi Shueihan was very calm. Perhaps Qin Hao was like them and had used a second identity to participate in the competition. What they had to do now was to concentrate on the competition. As long as they continued to fight, they would meet sooner or later. Okay. Xiaogua nodded silently and turned to separate from Yi Shueihan. Yi Shueihan walked toward the first stage. As he walked onto the stage, the young girls in bright clothes below the stage raised the colored balls in their hands and waved them above their heads nonstop while chanting a stirring slogan. Cold water is extremely mysterious. The number one in the world is unparalleled. Their loud and clear voices, which were filled with the aura of youth, spread throughout the North Scatter District. More than 1,000 young girls had spontaneously formed a fan club. Following this, Yi Shueihan also revealed a warm and charming smile in the direction of the young girls below the stage. Immediately, 30% of the young girls saw this warm smile and fainted due to excessive excitement. 400 to 500 people were so moved that tears streamed down their faces. I admit defeat. Opposite Yi Shueihan, a young man said dispiritedly. He was a level 7 Yuan Monarch. He had originally been full of confidence. However, the moment Yi Shueihan stepped onto the stage, his confidence turned into worthless feces. Sigh. Yi Shueihan sighed and looked up at the sky at a 45.5-degree angle, looking like a lonely expert. He waved his hand and dismissed the young man. He did not make things difficult for him. Even 10 peak Yuan monarchs were no match for him. It was normal for the young man to admit defeat. On the second stage, Xiaogua walked onto the stage. Xiaogua's opponent was a 2-meter-tall man. Young man, I heard that you defeated more than 1,000 contestants alone. Is that true? No one in the entire North Scatter District can withstand a single punch from you? Ha ha ha. In my opinion, the opponents you encountered are not fit to be called men. As for me, I am 1 in a million. I am a rare man. Please remember my name. When I defeat you later, you can shout it out loud. My name is Bang. As Xiaogua's fist flashed past, the 2-meter-tall man was sent flying. His nose was smashed in by the fist, and he fainted in midair before he even hit the ground. Next, Xiaogua blew on his fist as his gaze swept over all the contestants on the second platform. When his gaze swept over, all the contestants on the second platform retreated one after another. Stage 5. Miss, as a girl, How can you participate in such a bloody and inhumane competition? As a girl, how could she disregard her image and announce that she was going to marry Princess Jingwe? As a girl, this is wrong. You know that. Don't understand. What's even more troublesome is that as a girl, you still choose to side with me, a man who values flowers as much as his own life. Whoosh! A wisp of cold air flew out from Chun Wanqin's palm. The young man's voice suddenly stopped. It was because he had turned into a sparkling ice sculpture. Then, this ice sculpture was carried to a certain place by the Northern Competition Zone's management staff and placed together with the previous 10 ice sculptures. At the same time, they were placed under the sun and exploded. Stage 8. You only have one chance to make a move. Yi Wuhan hugged a simple and unadorned rainbow sword as he spoke coldly. Ha ha, you're called Yi Wuhan, right? You're ranked 36th on the Emperor Martial Roll, and you're known as the man who's like the wind. But I, Zhang Wuhan, don't have an undeserved reputation. To be honest, I'm ranked 843 on the Emperor Martial Roll. In my opinion, this ranking is pure nonsense, because in the next second, you'll be defeated by me in one move. Pucci, an afterimage suddenly flashed on the stage. Yi Wuhan, who was standing in front of Zhang Wuhan, had unknowingly appeared behind him, and Zhang Wuhan fell to the ground with a plop. Sorry, speaking up can also be considered chance. After speaking, Yi Wuhan left the stage gracefully. Stage 10. Where are you? Come out, come out. Come out and fight me to the death. In the huge stage 10, there was only one martial artist standing there. The martial artist bent his body and held a watermelon knife in his hand. He looked around nervously as cold sweat kept rolling down his face. On the surface, he was the only one in the stage 10. But in fact, he knew that there was another martial artist present. It was the martial artist named Hao Zhixing, who had been given the title of Death's Attendant. I'm behind you. A voice that sounded like it came from hell came from behind him. At this moment, the martial artist holding the watermelon knife turned around and stabbed forward with a ferocious expression. However, when he turned around, a powerful slap landed heavily on his head. Bang! The martial artist suffered a heavy blow. His eyes rolled back as he fainted and fell to the ground. Idiot! I've already said that I'm behind you. At this moment, a young man in a black corset slowly appeared on the stage, surrounded by wisps of black chi. But his skin was fair, his facial features were handsome, and his appearance was very delicate. When he smiled, his charm was not inferior to Yi Xuan's. However, he exuded an aloof aura that prevented the opposite sex from approaching him. Occasionally, when one or two young girls approached him shakily and wanted to greet him, a murderous look flashed in his eyes. Instantly, the girls who approached him were scared to tears. Little Nine, that fellow, is acting cool again. Xiaoguo looked at Hao Zhixing, who had won on stage 10, and shook his head and sighed. Xiaoguo did not know this person's real name. He only knew that he was called Little Nine. He was a very cool person. Because this person liked to act cool, Xiaoguo recruited him from tens of thousands of people into the Haoqi Alliance. In this year, Little Nine was the only new member who was recognized by the other members of the Haoqi Alliance. What was even funnier was that Little Nine was a loyal fan of Qin Hao. Whether it was his words, actions, or style, he was imitating the old Qin Hao. Even his name was changed to Hao Zhixing. The reason why there was a Xing in his name was because Little Nine was saved by Xing. Xing was his benefactor, a very strong guy. It seems like there are many hidden talents in the Northern Competition Zone. Qin Hao did not know that the contestant on stage 10 was his fan. Judging from his aura, Little Nine was very strong. He was roughly at the 8th level of the Yuan Monarch realm. His movement technique was very ghostly, and he seemed to be an Essence Soul realm martial artist. According to the ghostly aura emitted by his opponent, his Essence Soul was of the dark attribute. He was definitely a difficult person to deal with. However, Qin Hao was confident that he could defeat him within 3 moves. After all, no matter how ghostly the Essence Soul and movement technique were, They were too weak in the face of overwhelming strength. After Yishuehan and the others won easily and successfully entered the semifinals, Qin Hao actually wanted to go forward and greet them. However, when he thought about his current appearance and how Shuehan, Guadi, and Wan Xin saw him, they would inevitably be worried. See you in the finals then. Qin Hao smiled faintly as he thought to himself. At this moment, the administrator coincidentally called his name. Su Hao, stage 9, please come up the stage. Sir, it's your turn. Su was excited. He could see Qin Hao in action again. He believed that Sir would show some real skills this time. After all, the martial artists in the regular competition were not ordinary people. Qin Hao was about to go up the stage. Wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. The Great Elder, the Second Elder, Su Datu, and the others finally caught up from the pub. They were about to ask Qin how to change the stage 3 times. However, it was too late. Chapter 9, 51. Plop. The first elder fell to his knees. It's over. It's over. There was no need to change the competition zone. Qin Hao was bound to lose. In response, the second elder sneered. Su Data held his stomach and laughed out loud. He wanted to see Qin Hao lose. After all, Su Datu had lost the qualification to continue the competition. Fortunately, his son, Su Hua, had made it to the children's competition. That was something worth celebrating. Then, he realized that he was laughing too loudly. In front of the other elders, Su Datu pretended to cough a few times and said regretfully, Sir, you're unlucky to have encountered such a ruthless person like One Blade Stream. It's really unfortunate. The other elders sighed when they heard that. See, sir. Susu's voice was trembling. He looked at One Blade Stream, who was on the stage, and his eyes were filled with fear. What's wrong? Who's your opponent? Qin Hao asked. It's the guy who killed 5 stage experts in the tavern that day. Susu replied. It's him. Qin Hao thought for a moment. If Susu had not mentioned it, he would have forgotten about it. While they were talking, Qin Hao slowly landed on the stage with his hands behind his back. Susu shouted a few times. He was very nervous. So, my opponent is you? Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. As Qin Hao went on the stage, One Blade Stream laughed. At the same time, the administrator in charge of the 9th stage also laughed. There was a strong sense of conspiracy in his smile. Obviously, he had arranged this competition on purpose. He had chosen among the many contestants for a long time before he took a fancy to One Blade Stream. Although One Blade Stream's cultivation was not as strong as Yishuehan and Sayogwa, he was definitely not weaker than Iron Crutchley. On the Imperial Martial ranking list, One Blade Stream's ranking was even higher than Iron Crutchley's by a large margin, reaching 672. That was because One Blade Stream was too ruthless. None of the contestants who fought him could survive. Therefore, his ranking was very high, which was reflected in the word fierce. Even if Yishuehan and Qin Hao were arranged to fight, it would be fine if Qin Hao lost. If it was One Blade Stream, it would be different. Qin Hao would definitely die. A mere blind ant dares to act all high and mighty in front of me, deluding yourself with the idea of marrying the princess. Sure, let's see how you're going to marry her. Manager number 9 sneered inwardly. On the stage, do you remember my warning? If we meet in the arena, it will be your death. But don't worry, I won't kill you with 1 stab like I did to the others. I will bestow you with 3 stab attacks. One Blade Flow stretched out 3 fingers and said with a cold expression, the first strike, I will break your legs. The second slash, I'll cut off your arms. This third strike will make your head fall to the ground. These 3 sabers are a special reward for my 1 saber school to you. It is your great honor. After all, I only used to attack once. Although he said that, One Blade Stream's expression was extremely vicious. In fact, he was participating in the qualifying round on the last day. At that time, he was injured by the old demon. After resting for 6 days, he finally recovered from his injuries. On the last day of the competition, the average strength of the contestants was relatively strong, and the competition was especially intense. Even so, no one could resist one of his moves, and he advanced easily. Today, he had stabbed Qin Hao 3 times because he wanted to put all the humiliation he had suffered on Qin Hao's head. He wanted to torture him. 3 strikes to make my head fall to the ground? The corners of Qin Hao's lips slowly curled up. Very well, you can give it a try. If I am not injured at all after 3 strikes, I will not be injured at all. From then on, you might as well change your 1 saber school to 3 saber school. Haha. Arrogant. 1 saber school shouted and pointed at Qin Hao's nose. Giving you 3 stab attacks is my mercy. In fact, you blind guy can't even take half of my attacks. Really? Why don't we make a bet? If I lose, not only will I give you my life, but I will also let the Su family pay you 10 mysterious crystals. Qin Hao said. Ha ha ha. 1 saber school laughed wildly and licked his lips. Your style of seeking death is really special. You can't imagine how many mysterious crystals I have. Can the Su family afford it? Cut the crap. Do you want to bet or not? Qin Hao shouted. Of course. While speaking, 1 saber school waved his hand, and the space ring on his finger flew to the manager of the 9th platform. I have 8 million mysterious crystals and 200,000 earth crystals. Please be my witness. Boom! The Su family felt as if they were struck by lightning. The amount was amazing. First Elder, you can't do that. You will kill the whole family. You can't agree. Everyone tried to dissuade him. At this time, Qin Hao turned around, followed the breath of the First Elder, and stared at him with a cold face. The First Elder's legs suddenly trembled. Thinking of the old demon and the millions of mysterious crystals Qin Hao had casually thrown to the tavern owner, he gritted his teeth. I accept this bet on behalf of the Su family. If you kill my master, then according to the 10,000, I will pay you back 10 times. Boom! The Su family felt as if they had been hit in the head by a stick. Crazy. The First Elder is crazy too. Shut up, all of you. The First Elder stomped his foot and threw caution to the wind. Since both sides agree, then I can be the witness. With my cultivation under the Venerable Realm, I believe the Su family doesn't dare to renege on the bet, right? The manager of the 9th platform stared at the First Elder threateningly and said, and I am also willing to bet. I have 2 million mysterious crystals and 500,000 earth crystals. I bet 1 saber school will win. Then, the manager took off his ring and threw it on the table beside him. As a Venerable Realm expert, he didn't care about mysterious crystals because there was too little spiritual energy. Therefore, the manager didn't have as many mysterious crystals as 1 saber school. But the earth crystals he had were more than 300,000. I have 800,000 earth crystals. I bet 1 saber school will win. I have 600,000 earth crystals. I bet 1 saber school will win. I have 1,400,000 earth crystals. I bet 1 saber school will win. There was a loud rumble. Not only the 9th platform, but the entire northern division was in an uproar. The sound of betting could be heard endlessly. In everyone's opinion, Qin Hao was blind and had no chance of winning. 1 saber school was ranked in the top 600 of the Imperial Martial ranking, which was relatively high. Moreover, he was a very vicious person, which gave people a feeling of power imperceptibly. There were tens of thousands of people in the northern division. Every martial artist was at least at the King realm. They were all people with goods. Therefore, all the bets added up were simply impossible to calculate. It was an astronomical figure. It's over. The Su family is completely finished. Even if we spend 10 or 100 lifetimes, I'm afraid we won't be able to pay it back. In an instant, many elders of the Su family fell to the ground powerlessly, covering their faces and crying. At this moment, the second elder's mouth twitched. He took a step forward with determination. The first elder was very moved. Second elder, I didn't expect you to be the most supportive at this critical moment. You stood by my side. No, you're wrong. The second elder shook his head. Then he took off his Sumera belt from his waist and threw it on the manager's table. I have 3,000 mysterious crystals. I bet Su Hao will lose. After speaking, the second elder looked at Qin Hao with tears in his eyes. He seemed to be saying, Sir, don't let me down. You must die in 1 saber school's hands. The 3,000 mysterious crystals were the last of the second elder's wealth. Chapter 952. Second Patriarch. Aren't you going too far? Su angrily rebuked. As a member of the Su family, Second Patriarch bet that Su would lose. Going too far? When the entire Su residence is ruined by you, don't ever try to curry favor with me. Second Patriarch angrily glared at him. If so, I bet 5,000 Xian crystals that Su would lose. I bet 6,000 Xian crystals. I bet 10,000 Xian crystals. The elders of the Su family collectively took off their bags and threw them on the table. Because of this, First Patriarch was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Qin Hao stood on the stage and twisted his face. He wanted to give the Su family a chance to make a lot of money, but these fools looked down on him. So, how many Xian crystals do you have? Bet all of them, Qin Hao loudly said. Are you kidding me? Even you have lost your confidence. Do you want me to bet that you would lose? Su's face was full of bitterness. You bet on me. Qin Hao was speechless. Oh, I see. Su put his hand in his pocket for a long time and took out 10 Xian crystals. He reluctantly put them on Qin Hao's table. At this time, there were countless space rings and sumra bags in the one Blade School's table. Qin Hao's table only had 10 Xian crystals as Su's. It looked pitiful. The two were in sharp contrast. Blind man, I don't think you will win either. But since we are both disabled, Iron Crutchley, will be crazy with you this time. I bet 100,000 Xian crystals that you will win. Iron Crutchley sighed. Qin Hao was indeed too pitiful. They had to strengthen his reputation. Iron Crutchley took out 100,000 Xian crystals and was about to bet, forget it, just 50,000 Xian crystals. Then, the 100,000 Xian crystals were reduced by half and were thrown on the stage by Iron Crutchley. The corner of Qin Hao's mouth twitched. Thank you. He didn't expect that in the whole North Division, only the disabled chairman Iron Crutchley was willing to bet on him, and this person was mentally handicapped. How much did he think he would lose? I bet 500 Xian crystals on Su Hao. At this time, a low voice came from the audience. It was Gongshu Jian, the Mecha Man. He actually bet on himself to win. It had to be said that Gongshu Jian still had some insight. Gongshu Jian, you bet more. At this time, Qin Hao was overjoyed. Impossible because you're bound to lose. In fact, I don't even want to bet a single copper coin on you. Here are 500 Xian crystals for you. Gongshu Jian was a reasonable man. 7 days ago, Qin Hao gave him 500 Xian crystals. At this moment, he was betting 500 just to repay the favor. All right, Qin Hao no longer had any hope for the others. This was good as well. All the spatial rings of the northern region cultivators landed in Xiao Chen's hands. He had made quite a fortune. He estimated that he could earn at least a few hundred million. Originally, Qin Hao didn't want to make such a big gamble. But you just had to give me money. One blade flow, hurry up and attack. Finish blind in one move. I can't wait to collect 10 times the bet. Haha, along with this, tens of thousands of people below the stage excitedly asked for one sword stream to make a move. Did you hear that? One uplifting sound. This is a beautiful note that the heavens have bestowed upon you before you die. One sword stream coldly stared at Qin Hao. He slowly raised his right hand, and the sword chi in his palm became stronger and stronger. Seeing his movement, the northern region cultivators all held their breaths. Because in the next second, Qin Hao would become a corpse. Just like one sword stream's opponent, he couldn't avoid this move. But as I said, if I want to kill you in 3 moves, I will definitely kill you in 3 moves. This first move, break my legs. Swish. One blade flow's raised palm suddenly swept horizontally, bursting out a huge white light blade. The light blade made a sound as it cut through the air, fiercely cutting towards Qin Hao's legs. The king stage Yuan Qi shook the battle arena until it rumbled. Su and the first elder were immediately shocked. They closed their eyes tightly and couldn't bear to see Qin Hao cut into 2 halves. Too slow, Qin Hao muttered. He didn't dodge the light blade, allowing it to cut him. While the other cultivators thought that he was a fool, they were shocked to see that the light blade had cut through Qin Hao's legs, but his legs weren't broken. The whole scene was extremely strange, as though Qin Hao was an illusion. Bang! A corner of the stage was cut open by the light blade, and a huge rock weighing more than 500 kilograms fell down. The rock fell to the ground with a loud bang. However, Qin Hao on the stage he was completely unharmed. This, impossible. Suda Tu rubbed his eyes. When he looked again, he realized that Qin Hao was indeed unharmed. The entire northern region fell into a dead silence. All the cultivators were stunned. Now, it's your turn for the second move. Qin Hao's lips curled up as he pointed a finger at his opponent in disdain. Everyone, including one sword stream, was stunned. Even a manager of the 9th stage was stunned. The attack just now had caused a huge rock weighing more than 500 kilograms to fall from the special stage. Its power had reached the level of a level 7 Yuan Monarch. It was obvious that one sword stream hadn't held back. However, how had Qin Hao dodged it? He hadn't even dodged. He had allowed the saber aura to penetrate his body, but he was unharmed. One astonishing speed. After a long while, one sword stream exhaled a wisp of heavy white air. His expression was unprecedentedly solemn. He could tell that Qin Hao hadn't just been motionless. Instead, his movements had been so fast that it seemed as though he hadn't moved at all. This meant that his opponent's cultivation level wasn't lower than his. You are qualified for me to draw my saber. One sword stream guessed that Qin Hao was at least a level 7 Yuan Monarch. He didn't dare to underestimate him anymore. He slowly drew a thin, long, and slightly curved saber from his waist. One sword stream is drawing his saber. This is the first time I've seen him draw his saber since the preliminary round. Is this blind man really that strong? Everyone was discussing among themselves. They felt that something was amiss. It seems like Mr. isn't as weak as we thought. The great elder let out a deep breath. Although he was happy, he was still worried. The first move was a first-class saber. Just the saber aura from his body had reached such a terrifying level. Now that he had drawn his weapon, his attack power would be even stronger. Mr., hang in there. Susa clenched his fists tightly. His young face was covered in sweat. Cleave of the void. Suddenly, one sword stream shouted. He held his saber with both hands and slashed it forward with all his might. Whoosh! A dazzling saber aura burst forth from the saber. In a flash, the saber aura appeared in front of Qin Hao. Its speed was unbelievably fast. It even split into two and turned into two rays of white light that slashed toward Qin Hao's shoulders. He had said that he would cut off Qin Hao's arms with his second move. He would do as he said. Too weak to stand up to the wind, Qin Hao also made his move. His right hand formed a sword shape and waved in front of him. Swoosh! A horizontal ray of light blocked the two rays of saber aura. Boom! The three exploded together, shaking out a layer of turbulent airwaves. The airwaves spread in the arena. Crack! Crack! Countless spiderwebs spread out from the arena. The spiderwebs spread to one sword stream's feet. One sword stream felt a powerful force hit his chest. He could not help but taste sweetness in his throat. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He staggered back 5 or 6 steps. On the other hand, Qin Hao maintained his attacking posture. He was as steady as a mountain and was indestructible. How could it be? At this moment, the spectators were all shocked. Not only did the second move not cut off Qin Hao's arms, but one sword stream was also repelled and injured. Susu also used a gaze of disbelief as he stared at the seemingly weak Qin Hao on the stage. It was very difficult to imagine that such a frail body of Mr. actually contained such a shocking amount of power. At this moment, with a crash, the thin blade in one blade stream's hand shattered into pieces as soon as he steadied himself. You still have the third move. Chapter 9:53. Qin Hao used his fingers as a sword, and the primordial chi he sent out not only blocked one sword stream saber skill from the front. Instead, he had forced one blade stream back, injured him, and broken his weapon. This was enough to prove that Qin Hao's cultivation level was not lower than his. In fact, it was higher than his. Useless thing. You said you would use 2 blades to chop off Blind's limbs. Now, Blind is fine, but your blade is broken. 1 blade stream. Don't tell me you didn't eat enough today. Are you trying to lose to Blind on purpose? Are you trying to make us lose everything? If Blind's 3rd blade is not enough to kill him, 1 blade stream, I swear that you will be turned into minced meat the moment you leave the arena. The martialists below the arena cursed angrily. Many ruthless people ranked above the 1 blade current on the martial emperor list clenched their fists tightly as essence chi surged from their bodies. It was clear that if they could not kill Qin Hao, the next person to die would be the 1 blade current himself. Furthermore, he would die a horrible death and be torn to pieces by tens of thousands of martialists. Shut up, all of you. Facing the clamor, 1 blade torrent roared. His body trembled, and his gaze was like that of a venomous snake as he stared fixedly at Qin Hao. Qin Hao was just standing there, but the invisible pressure he exuded made 1 blade stream feel suffocated. At that moment, 1 blade stream raised his hand slowly and reached for his shoulders. On his shoulders, there were 2 other very special sabers. One of the scabbards was white, while the other was black. 1 blade stream regained his composure when he placed his hands on the handles of the 2 blades. He took a deep breath and sneered at Qin Hao. I admit that I underestimated you previously. You should be a mid-level, 8th level Yuan Monarch. Your cultivation level is indeed higher than mine. However, no matter what, you will not be able to defeat me. Next, I will use my strongest ultimate move. My ultimate move has killed a peak Yuan Monarch before. 1 blade stream's words caused an uproar. Big Head Su was so frightened that his face turned pale as he fell to the ground. He had never imagined that Qin Hao would be so strong. However, looking at 1 blade stream's serious expression, it did not seem like he was joking. Mister did not lie to me. You are really too powerful, Su said excitedly, his eyes filled with admiration. Qin Hao told him that he was no weaker than Iron Crutch Li and the Mecha Fighter. But so what? This is the ultimate move of the 1 saber flow, and it has killed a peak Yuan Monarch before. The Great Elder didn't even have time to be happy. He immediately sank into worry. His words caused the 2nd Elder to sigh in relief. It seemed that no matter how strong Qin Hao was, it would still be difficult for him to escape death. Thinking of this, the 2nd Elder smiled. On the other hand, Qin Hao was surprisingly calm. He pointed at 1 saber flow provocatively and said, "This is the last time. You have a 3rd chance to attack. Unparalleled in the world, first rate in the 2 heavens. 1 blade stream, stop talking nonsense." Swish, swish. The black and white sabers on his back were unsheathed, emitting a dazzling saber light. It was so dazzling that everyone covered their eyes and howled miserably. Then, 1 blade flow leaped into the air and turned into crackling lightning. Within the lightning, the black and white blade lights were exceptionally dazzling. It was like a thunderbolt in the clear sky. With the power of 10,000 pounds, it smashed towards Qin Hao's head. Water Wind Step. Feeling a huge force descending on his head, Qin Hao twisted his body and moved away slightly from his original position. Boom! The falling 1 blade flow's twin sabers stabbed directly into the position where Qin Hao had been standing. The entire arena was shaken until it cracked. Then, he held his sabers with both hands and aimed them at Qin Hao. He slashed at least 1,000 times in one breath. Swish, swish, swish. The terrifying saber lights flashed wildly, making the martial artists below the arena tremble in fear. Many of the contestants who were ranked higher than 1 blade flow realized that if they were in Qin Hao's place, they would not be able to do anything in the face of such a fierce attack. In other words, they were not a match for 1 blade flow at all. However, Qin Hao was walking leisurely in the saber lights that filled the sky. It was effortless, and he seemed to be at ease. Seeing this, many martial artists were so shocked that they fainted. Disappear. At this time, along with the dual heaven first-rate saber technique's last move, One Blade Flow let out a ferocious roar. He retreated quickly and directly left the arena, floating in the distance. However, the twin sabers suddenly slashed out a cross slash. The cross slash was like starlight descending from the ninth heaven. It heavily bombarded the arena and exploded into billowing smoke. Within the smoke, Qin Hao's aura instantly vanished without a trace. Ha ha ha! One Blade Flow, who was floating in the air, laughed wildly with satisfaction. Qin Hao was finally dead. It had to be said that the blind man was indeed quite a powerful character to be able to hold on until the last move of the dual heaven first-rate saber. Unfortunately, he should not have been his enemy. One Blade Flow thought so, and his nose was almost in the sky. His expression was very proud. Plop! As Qin Hao's breath dissipated, Su Su directly knelt below the arena. His two palms pressed on the ground. He raised his head and looked at the collapsing ninth arena, as if he had lost his soul. How could this be? The outcome has been decided. The manager of the ninth arena laughed at the same time and nodded to One Blade Flow's position as if to say, "You brat, well done. Now I announce that the winner is—" Wait a minute, the competition is not over yet. A voice unexpectedly interrupted the manager of the ninth arena. When the voice sounded, the manager was so shocked that his jaw almost fell to his feet. His eyes were wide open, and he looked at the billowing smoke in the arena. In the smoke, a vague figure became clearer and clearer. "Mr. Boohoo! Mister, you are not dead." After Su Su saw the figure clearly, he was so excited that tears streamed down his face. "I haven't accompanied you to the children's competition. How can you go back on your words?" Qin Hao smiled slightly. At this moment, his body was also floating in the air. The arena under his feet had already been shattered into pieces. However, not to mention a trace of injury on his body, even his clothes were not scratched. How could this be? One Blade Flow was deeply shocked. His pupils were expanding, and his mouth could be stuffed with a fist. He looked at Qin Hao as if he was looking at a monster. "You have finished your 3 strikes. Next, take my sword." Qin Hao swung his right hand downward. Swoosh! A jade-green long sword appeared. The edge of the sword was surging with dark red flames. One Blade Flow did not dare to take it. As soon as Qin Hao finished speaking, he increased his primordial qi and fled out of the northern arena like a ray of light. He fled quickly, but the sword shadow behind him was even faster. It was like a swan sweeping across the sky. Poochie! It pierced through One Blade Flow's back and through his body. As blood splattered, One Blade Flow fell from the sky like a tattered cloth bag. At this moment, there was a swoosh. A huge screen appeared in the sky above the northern arena. The screen was filled with the names of the participants of the Emperor Martial Arts competition. These names continued to roll until they reached the 672nd place. The original 672 place had the 3 words One Blade Flow. Chapter 954. Qin Hao frowned. Through his mind, he felt the huge light screen above his head. He thought, what a high-end operation. It seemed that the guy ranked on the Imperial Martial ranking list was not a simple character. Ignoring the shocked warriors in the arena, Qin Hao descended and followed Su Su's aura to the gambling table. With a sweep of his hand, he collected all the space rings that had piled up into a mountain. In the end, he threw the One Blade Flow ring to the first elder. "It's yours." Qin Hao smiled. The great elder lowered his head and looked at the ring in his hand. The ring was of a much higher grade than his Sumeru pouch. He was absent-minded for a long time. Then, like a lunatic, he let out a wild laugh. I'm rich. I'm rich." Plop, plop. The second elder and big head, Su, rolled their eyes and fell to the ground, paralyzed. The sound of people falling to the ground rang out one after another. The other elders who bet on Qin Hao's loss regretted it so much that their intestines turned green. They wanted to hold the second elder and his son down and beat them up. "Su are yours. Gongshu Jian, I'll pay you back 10 times. Cripple yours." Qin Hao threw 3 beams of light at Su Su, Gongshu Jian, and Tai Guai Li. According to the bet, Su Su would get 100 Qian crystals, and Gongshu Jian would get 5,000. Iron Crutchley got the most. He got a total of 500,000 yuan, which was quite a windfall. Brother, you have to be honest. You've earned at least 1 billion this time. Isn't 5,000 too little? Gongshu Jian ignored his mecha and stared at Qin Hao's finger with red eyes. The ring on his finger contained all the belongings of the warriors in the northern region. 1 billion was a small number. A conservative estimate was at least 2 or 3 billion. If magic treasures, weapons, and special items were included, the value would be immeasurable. Actually, you should give me 500 million. Gongshu Jian also said. He did not look like an honest person at all. Since we are all members of the Handicapped Association, why don't you donate 50 billion to the other handicapped people in the association and share the burden of the public? Iron Crutchley followed up. At this moment, his mind was very clear. He was not confused at all. When did I join the Handicapped Association? Qin Hao was confused. He flung his sleeves and pulled Su Su out of the arena. She had promised Su that she would accompany him to the children's group competition. Stop right there. The manager's figure flashed and blocked in front of Qin Hao. In fact, it was not just the manager. All the warriors in the North Division surrounded Qin Hao and Su Su like a solid iron bucket. Everyone stared at them fiercely, clenched their fists, and stopped fighting. What's wrong? As a witness, are you trying to go back on your word? Qin Hao smiled disdainfully, completely unafraid of the manager of Platform 9. He pointed at all the hostile auras around him. And you guys, are you trying to rob me? Could it be that in your eyes, Senior Number 9, who acted as a witness for me in one blade school, is a pile of dung on the ground? If others attacked, it would be a deliberate provocation in front of the manager of Platform 9. Unknowingly, the manager of the arena became Qin Hao's protector. Good, very good. Even if I don't blame you and let you take away everyone's spatial rings, once you walk out of the arena, let's see how long you can live. If you have the ability, just leave. The manager of Platform 9 moved aside and made way. If Qin Hao returned everyone's spatial rings, he could pretend that this never happened. If Qin Hao did not know how to appreciate kindness and insisted on going against everyone, once he left the arena, he swore that Qin Hao would not even be able to walk 10 steps, and his blood would definitely splatter everywhere. Smart people should do smart things. Releasing the spatial rings was a wise choice. Unfortunately, since Qin Hao was regarded as a member of the Handicapped Association by Iron Crutchley, then he did not mind doing something stupid. He swaggered and directly pulled Su Su to the children's group competition. The children's group was not in the same area as the adult group. There were 5 streets between them. You're courting death. Brothers, keep up with him. As long as the blind man steps out of the northern area, we will chop him into pieces. Behind Qin Hao and Su Su, there were tens of thousands of martial artists who aggressively and indignantly chased after them. Their spatial rings were all in Qin Hao's hands. Not only did they contain their years of savings, but also the magical equipment and trump cards that they had prepared for the competition. As Iron Crutchley said, these trump cards were invaluable. Their fathers were dead, but they could not lose their trump cards. Therefore, they followed closely like tens of thousands of crazy dogs, closely following Qin Hao, fearing that Qin Hao would run away. But Qin Hao did not run away. In fact, as soon as he walked out of the gate of the northern area, he was blocked by several martial artists with extremely terrifying auras. Ha, why don't you go? Go on if you dare. Put down all our spatial rings, and we can be merciful and leave your body intact. Hey, brothers, look at who those people in front of us are. As Qin Hao's footsteps stopped at the entrance of the northern competition zone, all the cultivators behind him were stunned as they turned their gazes to the front. They saw 5 people standing in front of Qin Hao, 4 men and 1 woman, each with an extraordinary aura. Even the dark night could not block their radiance. They were Yi Shuihan, Xiaogua, Chen Wanqin, Yi Wuhan, and Hao Zhixing. When the 5 of them appeared in front of Qin Hao, they were so excited that their bodies trembled. Yi Shuihan and Xiaogua desperately clenched their fists and gritted their teeth, trying to control their emotions so that they would not cry. When the martial artists in the northern areas saw this scene, they had a different feeling. To others, this was a sign that Qin Hao was going to be torn to pieces. Could it be that Yi Shuihan and Sayo with spatial rings are also in blind hands? Haha, this is 2F asterisk king spectacular. We don't have to do anything. Even blind can't die. It's really unfortunate to be an enemy of the Grim Reaper. Tens of thousands of martial artists sneered. Even the manager of platform number 9, who was in the crowd, had his arms crossed as if he was waiting to watch a good show. Plop! The great elder was so frightened that he knelt on the ground in front of Yi Shuihan. It's over. It's really over this time. Even 10 peak Yuan monarchs were not a match for Yi Shuihan, but Qin Hao could not even defeat 1 peak Yuan monarch. The two of them were simply not on the same level. Furthermore, Chen Wanqin, Xiaogua, and Yi Wuhan were not decorations. None of them were to be trifled with. Xiaogua was born with superhuman strength and could tear a dragon apart with his bare hands. Chen Wanqin could freeze someone into a 10,000-year-old popsicle with a casual slap. Yi Wuhan was a man who was like the wind and was extremely fast. Hao Zhixing was a terrifying demon king who was nicknamed the Grim Reaper Servant. Any one of them could easily kill Qin Hao tens of thousands of times. This was what the Great Elder thought. Along with this, he scrambled to grab Yi Shuihan's pants and tore them tightly. He raised his head and begged, "We'll give it to you. We'll give it all to you. We'll give it all to you. Please don't make things difficult for my master." After saying that, he looked at Qin Hao with a face full of tears. He believed that Qin Hao already understood what he meant. At that moment, Su Su was so scared that he was dumbfounded. He was completely at a loss and could only tremble with all his might. He could not even stand up straight. Even if the heavens came, they would not be able to do anything to me, let alone the 5 of you. However, Qin Hao grinned with a relaxed expression. Ha ha! When Qin Hao laughed, tens of thousands of martialists laughed along with him. He was still so arrogant in front of Yi Shuihan and the other 4. He did not know what was good for him. I think he doesn't even know how to spell the word death. I'm guessing that the blind man will turn into pieces in the next second. I bet 1 million mysterious crystals. Do you still have mysterious crystals? Chapter 955. They couldn't wait to see how Yi Shuihan's group of 5 would torture Qin Hao to death. Thus, tens of thousands of people laughed. They laughed for half an hour until their facial muscles cramped. When the atmosphere was extremely awkward, Yi Shuihan's group finally recovered from their surprise. Qi Zhanzhan took a step forward, ignoring the great elder who was crawling in panic. He walked in front of Qin Hao. "Su Hao, you said your name is Su Hao, right?" Yi Shuihan said excitedly. "Brother Su Hao, I see that you're a talented man with an arrogant demeanor. You give people the feeling of an emperor. Little brother Gua Gua, my admiration for you is like the overflowing river, endless and uncontrollable. It's really a pity the heroes didn't meet earlier. Why don't you accept me as your follower?" Kacha. The martial artists in the northern region seemed to have been struck by lightning. They were collectively stunned on the spot. What was this situation? "Hello, Su Hao. My name is Chen Wanqin. I never thought that there would be such an unusual man like you in the northern region. If I fail in the competition and can't marry the princess, why don't you marry me?" Chen Wanqin's jade-like hand gently covered her mouth. She couldn't help but laugh out loud. Zung, zung, zung. Susu took a few steps back. His eyes were full of shock. At the same time, about 3,000 to 4,000 martial artists rolled their eyes. They couldn't accept the reality and fainted. This can't be real. I must be dreaming. Some martial artists desperately clenched their teeth and insisted on their inner thoughts. Qin Hao wouldn't have a good ending. At this time, Yi Wuhan opened his mouth. "I'm Yi Wuhan. Seeing brother Su Hao's heroic spirit, I want to make friends with you. Why don't I be the host? Tonight at the #1 restaurant in the Imperial City, Drunken Immortal Pavilion, you and I will talk for a long time. We won't go home until we're drunk." Sure enough, hearing about you can't compare to meeting you in person. Your temperament, your muscles, your lines are so beautiful, full of sunshine. This little brother is so lucky. I don't know how to say it. I'm very excited. My heart is turbulent. In short, Brother Su Hao is so busy. Please take out 1/10,000th of your time and let this little brother treat you to a meal. Please forgive me for not being able to control myself. I'm really. Little Jiu, who used the pseudonym Hao Zhixing, had tears in his eyes. He was unable to extricate himself. He was incoherent to the extreme. Qin Hao was his idol. He was too excited. Although it wasn't his first time seeing Qin Hao, he was always looking at him from afar. Among the tens of thousands of fans in Shiliang, he was just an insignificant admirer. Today, standing face to face in front of his idol, his mood couldn't be understood by ordinary people. In fact, if not for Yi Shuian quietly grabbing little Jiu's belt and lifting him up, little Jiu would have most likely knelt down. Oh God, Puff. The northern region's martial artists who were still persevering finally couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. They looked at little Jiu. Was this still the Grim Reaper's bodyguard? Was he still that cold and aloof man who was as gloomy as a demon king? The one who scared little girls to tears with a glare? You swear you're not a clown invited by a monkey? And Yi Shuihan just noticed that there were so many onlookers. Just now, he was too excited and didn't notice. His face couldn't help but sink. What are you looking at? Do you want to die? Little Jiu would never allow others to destroy his chance to talk with his idol. With a bang, his body emitted a gloomy black smoke. Quickly leave. This is too strange. This is too strange. In an instant, the northern region's martial artists surrounding Qin Hao scattered like ducks. Although they were unwilling, they weren't stupid enough to go against Yi Shuihan and the others for a few 100,000 mysterious crystals and a so-called trump card. Interesting. Manager number 9, who had never imagined that this would happen, frowned in confusion. As the crowd dispersed, he was forced to leave. In all fairness, as a second-level Yuan venerate, he wasn't confident that he could take his ring from Qin Hao in front of Yi Shuihan. Yi Shuihan's strength was unfathomable. He hadn't used his full strength yet, so his intuition told him that Yi Shuihan's cultivation base might not be below his. Not to mention, Xiaogua, Chen Wanqin, and the other 4 were all present. Boss, Alliance Chief, Idol. As the crowd fled in panic, Yi Shuihan and the other 4 opened their arms and hugged Qin Hao. There are too many people. See you at the Drunken Immortal Pavilion tonight. Qin Hao took a step back and transmitted his voice to the 5 of them. Okay, everyone was stunned. They helplessly withdrew their hands, nodded, and turned to leave. Sura, let's go. Qin Hao tugged at Su Su, who stood motionless on the spot as though he had lost his soul. After all, without Su Su leading the way, Qin Hao wouldn't be able to tell the direction. This child was currently his eyes. Xiaogua sensed something and turned around abruptly, only to see Qin Hao's hand groping in front of him. His heart trembled. Big Brother's eyes? Big Brother's eyes were blind. Xiaogua's instinct told him. He really wanted to go up and ask. In the end, he didn't. With a sigh, Xiaogua disappeared into the crowd. He knew that no matter what the reason was, Big Brother would explain everything at the Drunken Immortal Pavilion tonight. No matter who it was, Xiaogua swore that there was no need for that person to live after making Big Brother blind. Sir, Su Su pointed in the direction where Yi Shuihan and Xiaogua left and said foolishly. Yes, a group of strange people, aren't they? Qin Hao smiled and patted Su Su's head. He originally thought that Gua Di and the others would leave the arena after the competition and return to their residence to rest. He didn't expect that they didn't leave. They must have sensed his aura. Qin Hao nodded. He would accompany Su to the competition first. He would have plenty of time to chat with his brothers at night. Under Su Su's lead, Qin Hao arrived at the children's competition area. The children's competition was still in progress. It was also extremely intense. Waves of energy flashed across the arena, and the sound of contestants being sent flying could be heard continuously. The rules were the same as the adult group. The children's competition required one to defeat an opponent to enter the semifinals. Perhaps it was fate, but when it was Su Su's turn, his opponent was Su Hua. You countries, Su families, Su Su versus you countries, Su Hua. Please enter the arena. The administrator shouted. Thump! Susu's heart skipped a beat. Why is it Su Hua? Oh no! Su Hua was a level 3 Yuan ancestor. Susu's cultivation was only at level 7 Yuan ancestor. There was a huge difference between the two. It was obvious who was stronger and who was weaker. Haha, it's actually Su. It's fate. Hurry up and get up here. Su Hua was the first to enter the arena. He pointed at Su in high spirits. At first, he was worried that he would meet a strong opponent in the children's group. There were a few powerful guys who were at the sage level. Chapter 956. Brother Wax is so lucky. Instead of saying that Brother Wax is lucky, it is better to say that Su is unlucky. Ha. Brother Wax, finish him off. Become the young patriarch of the family in one battle. A bright future awaits you. The Su family youths watching the battle were in an uproar. It was too much of coincidence. Everyone was impatient. Brother Su Wax, you are the best. Su Mei cheered for Su Wax from below the stage. Su Wax put his hands on his waist and raised his head arrogantly. In his eyes, Su was a soft persimmon that he could bully however he wanted. However, Su was powerless and could only resign himself to fate. Ha! My grandson will definitely advance. Sir, congratulations on winning the adult division. I didn't expect you to be a high-level Yuan Monarch and be so powerful. However, you have taught a useless piece of trash like Su. Ha! He has become my son's cannon fodder. Oh, I'm sorry. I spoke too harshly. Given your character, I don't think you will hold it against me, right? Moreover, Su is indeed a useless piece of trash. Ha! The second elder and Big Head Su rushed to the children's division from the North Arena. Big Head Su's words were mean and provocative. It was as if he was saying, so what if I lose the competition? So what if Qin Hao enters the semifinals? In the end, Su, who you taught personally, was defeated by my son, Su Wax. Damn it. Who are you calling a useless piece of trash? Su had always been suppressed in the Su family and had a lot of grievances in his heart. He could not bear it anymore and glared at Big Head Su. Big Head Su did not act like an elder at all. Whoever agreed is a useless piece of trash. Big Head Su said leisurely. He did not take Su seriously at all. Su was so angry that he wanted to draw his sword. Qin Hao's warm palm pressed on Su's shoulder. The essence energy from the tranquil water flowed into Su's body like cool spring water, suppressing Su's chaotic emotions. The competition was imminent. He had to calm himself down. Phew! Su understood Qin Hao's intentions. He took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. He had to adjust his state of mind to face Su Hua. Only people who are truly trash would call others trash. It was because he felt too inferior and was inferior to others in every aspect. He scolded others as if this could bring balance to his heart. Actually, it's like trash. Qin Hao coldly said to Su too. He was extremely disgusted. Big Head Su was so angry that his face was burning with anger. But Qin Hao ignored him. He patted Su's shoulder and continued. Do you still remember our agreement? Win this match. If you can defeat Su Hua with your own strength, I will have a gift for you. Really? Joy rose on Su's cheeks, and he instantly forgot his bad mood. A monarch never goes back on his words. Qin Hao solemnly promised. Thank you, sir. Su bowed to salute. He knew very well that as a high-level Yuan monarch, Qin Hao's gift would not be ordinary. It would definitely be heaven-defying. For the sake of the gift, he had to fight with Su Hua. Go! With a push on Su's back, Qin Hao sent him to the battle arena with a huge force under his palm. Little Wax, teach him a lesson. Let him know how useless he is. Big Head Su roared fiercely. Don't worry, father. Even if you don't say it, I will break all his bones and make him unable to take care of himself. Su Hua rubbed his fists and laughed sinisterly. He inched closer to Su. Brother Wax, do your best. Su Mei, who was below the battle arena, was full of admiration. Once upon a time, She had worshipped Su as much as she did today. But that was in the past. Wait. Seeing that Su Hua was about to make a move, Su stopped him. What's wrong? Are you scared, coward? Su Hua muttered and spat on Su's boots. Su looked down and was not angry. He took out a handkerchief and bent down to wipe his shoes clean. Then, with a flick of his hand, the handkerchief floated off the stage and landed on Su Mei's face. Su Mei was also flustered. She was disgusted to the extreme, and the anger on her face was about to burst out. Don't be angry. Let me finish. The Mei I used to know was a good girl. She was obedient, sensible, and considerate. But I never thought that it was a premeditated scheme to get close to me and take my belongings. If you can treat me like this, you can treat Su Hua like this in the future. Even getting close to Su Hua now is to get benefits from him. Don't talk nonsense. I'm sincere to Brother Wax. Brother Wax, you have to believe me. Su Mei panicked. Su waved his hand. I'm not interested in your trivial matters. I just want to prove one thing. I, Su, am not inferior to others and will not lose to Su Hua. Su Mei, open your eyes and watch carefully. Bang! Just as Su finished speaking, a fist came flying towards him, and Su Hua hit his face. Su flew backwards. 2 streams of blood flowed out from his nose and scattered in the wind. A competition is a competition. Why are you talking about women? Women are like clothes. You idiot. Su Hua did not give Su a chance to fight back. He immediately followed up with another attack. The Su family's crushing stone fist was used to its fullest potential. Every punch landed on Su's body. This punch immediately turned Su into a bloody man. Ha ha ha. Brother Wax is too flirtatious. The Su family's youths cheered in unison. They saw Su hugging his head and curling up on the ground. This outcome was not surprising at all. Su Mei curled her lips at Su, who was being beaten up on the stage. I thought you had some tricks up your sleeve. Turns out you only know how to talk. However, she did not notice that although Su was powerless to fight back, the fighting spirit in his eyes did not diminish. Su is looking for an opportunity. Qin Hao closed his eyes. He could feel Su's aura growing stronger. It was obvious that he was accumulating energy. There was a big gap between Yuan Shi and Yuan Zhong. Qin Hao was experienced and knew this very well. Su could not win against Su Hua in a head-on fight. Therefore, he could only look for an opportunity. That was his only chance to strike. It was also his only chance to win. Bang, bang, bang. The fist shadows on the stage rang for a long time. Along the way, there was a crackling sound. No one knew how many of Su's bones were broken. In the end, Su Hua was completely exhausted. He stopped panting and took 2 steps back. He looked at Su, who had collapsed on the ground and was curled up in a pool of blood like a kitten. Su Hua laughed. Ha! He did not even have the strength to fight back. There is no challenge at all. Hey, who cares? Senior manager, my opponent has lost. Hurry up and announce my victory. Congratulations to you, country's Su Hua, for successfully advancing. The manager immediately shouted. However, before he could finish his sentence, Tong. Chapter 9:57. The entire arena was shocked. To be able to stand up with such injuries, one must have a lot of endurance. If it were any other master, they would not have the confidence to stand up like Su after receiving so many punches from Yuan Zhong. They would not even have the guts to fight. You brat, your bones are really tough. Su Zhong was furious. He rushed up and used another round of crushing King Kong fist. Shadows of his fists flashed. If one set was not enough, he would use another. He wanted to see if Su's body was made of flesh. Ha! Now you know how powerful I am? Su, say something. Looking at Su, who had fallen to the ground, Su Zhong stopped and observed for a long time. When he saw that Su was no longer moving, he heaved a sigh of relief. He turned his head and gave the manager a look, telling him that he could announce his victory. Tongue! Before the manager could open his mouth, Su stood up again. I can still fight. Blood flowed from his nose and mouth. The corner of Su's eye was also broken. Blood blurred his vision, but his eyes were full of fighting spirit. Damn! The Su family youths were moved. Although Su's strength is not as strong as Brother Wax, his courage is really admirable. The Su family youths were moved. Actually, they were not the only ones who were moved, including the spectators and the adults who were cheering for their children. When they saw Su's indomitable spirit, they were secretly impressed. Why do you have to do this? Sigh. The manager of the arena sighed. He was an old man in his 60s. He had a kind face and could not bear to continue watching. As a master, no matter how much he struggled, he could not win against Yuanzhong. If it were any other contestant, they would have given up long ago. Why would they suffer for nothing? He felt that it was not worth it for Su, so as long as I have a breath left, I will never admit defeat. This is what teacher taught me. Su said stubbornly. Perhaps it was the blood that stimulated his bloodthirstiness. He looked at Su Zhang with a ferocious gaze. Waxy beat him down in one move. Used the last move of crushing King Kong fist, shattering the sky fist. Second elder and big head Su roared. Su's tenacity was beyond imagination. Only by using the Su family's powerful Yuan Qi attack to send him flying off the stage would he give up. Shattering the sky fist. Su Hua did not hesitate to use his final trump card. A powerful blue brilliance spread out from his body. The surging primordial qi flowed along his arm and gathered in his right fist, forming a blue ball of light. The ball of light grew stronger and stronger, causing the arena to shake. Su, hurry up and admit defeat. You will lose your life. Sume clenched her hands and shouted nervously. That's right, Su. Stop resisting, Brother Wax. It's too stupid. We're all from the Su family. Although we don't really like you, you can't joke around with your life. Just admit defeat, idiot. The Su family's youths all try to persuade him. Sir said that you never know what will happen until the last moment. Su was indifferent to the persuasion of the crowd. He even spread his legs, bent his waist, and lowered his horse, assuming a stance to meet his opponent's attack head-on. Stubborn, Su Zhang was completely enraged, and he swung his right fist viciously. The blue ball of light in his fist turned into a cone-shaped energy. It was like a dragon striking the sea, setting off a strong gust of wind. Seeing this scene, many people turned their heads to the side, unable to bear to watch. Bang! As expected, when the blue ball of light came into contact with Su, the monstrous energy smashed into his body. Su raised his head and spat out a mouthful of blood. His internal organs were in a mess, and he fell off the arena involuntarily. Huff! Huff! Su Hua used his trump card and took a few deep breaths. From beginning to end, he had used up a lot of energy. However, when he saw that other than himself, there was no sign of Su on the arena, he finally felt relieved and laughed. Ha ha ha! I won in the end. No, you haven't won yet. Su's voice interrupted Su Hua. A pale palm was clinging to the edge of the arena. His 5 fingers were clasped together and trembling. If one followed the image, they would see that Su's entire body was hanging on the side of the arena. Then he gathered his qi and borrowed the strength of his palm. With a whoosh, he returned to the arena and stood in front of Su Hua. Boom! Su Hua looked as if he had been struck by lightning. His face was twisted to the extreme. He could not even defeat Su. It was... At this moment, even the manager of the arena, the old man in his 60s, was moved. He looked at Su and could not help but praise. The competition has been going on for almost half a month, and I have seen countless geniuses. However, this is the first time I have seen such a tenacious child like you. No matter what, even if you lose, your name will be engraved in the old man's heart. Good job. Whose child is that? He has such a backbone. Many of the Daliao citizens who were watching from the sidelines cheered. Hearing these voices, Su was so emotional that tears flowed down his cheeks. He muttered to himself, Father, although you are not by my side, but I have not given up. I have always worked hard to protect the foundation you left behind. I will not give up the position of young clan leader. You will be proud of me, right? Wiping the tears from his face, Su's courage increased. He shouted at Su Hua, Come on, I can still fight. Su, Su Hua's heart skipped a beat. It was hard to imagine that Su Su could still stand in front of him after taking so many attacks. At this moment, even he began to admire Su Su. Why? Su Hua asked, "If you know you will lose, why do you still fight? There is no reason. Before I achieve victory, there is no turning back." Su Su replied, "Victory? Creak." Su Hua clenched his fist tightly. "In front of me, Su Su, what victory do you have? I did not want to kill you, but you forced me to kill you. Then you could go to hell. Anyone who dares to stop me from becoming young clan leader deserves to die." After roaring, Su Hua's waist flashed, and a 9-ringed saber appeared in his hand. The saber radiated light as it stabbed forward. Pucci! The saber was as quick as lightning. It was abnormally fast. Accompanied by the sound of the weapon entering the body, Su Hua's saber was buried in Su Su's chest. The two of them faced each other and stuck together. A murder! Su Mei and the other Su family used below the stage all covered their eyes. Although the children's group competition was cruel, there had never been a murder scene. Su Su's incident was the first. Death is not to be regretted. Big Head Su snorted. Looking at the 9-ringed saber penetrating Su Su's body, his palms were sweaty. On the stage was the clan leader, Su Qingming's son. If it was in the past, when Su Qingming was still around, he would not even dare to think about it, let alone think about someone killing Su Su. But today, someone from a Su family did it. The perpetrator was Big Head Su's son. The madness stimulated his nerves, making Big Head Su feel inexplicably excited. At this moment, Qin Hao spoke. His tightly closed eyes opened. His gaze was extremely bright, and the corner of his mouth was full of praise. The only chance. Sora, you did well. Chapter 958. At this moment, Su Mei, who was watching the battle, screamed in horror. Upon closer inspection, Su Su, who was on the stage, had not been hit. The blade had not pierced his chest, but was clamped tightly under Su Su's armpit, causing Su Hua to be unable to move. How is this possible? Su Hua was shocked. How did Su Su, who was at Yuan Zong's level, avoid his full force blade? He could not understand. At this moment, a loud roar erupted in front of Su Hua. Su Su's roar was so loud that Su Hua's eardrums were about to burst. Heavenly snow, swoosh. Su Su raised his hand to his shoulder and pulled out the sword on his back. The surrounding temperature suddenly dropped, and snowflakes suddenly fell and floated on the stage. Su Su had finally used the flying snow swordplay that Qin Hao had taught him. The last move of the swordplay was the most difficult move. All this time, he had not been able to use this move freely. This was because this move took too long to accumulate energy. After accumulating energy, the Yuan Qi gathered would be too strong. It was difficult to control the direction of the swordplay, which meant that it was difficult to hit the enemy. But at this moment, this was not a problem. Su Hua stood in front of him, his blade still clamped by Su Su. He was in a daze. The timing was right. Even a blind man would be able to hit Su Zhu if he were to randomly swing his sword. Pung! The surging sword radiance swept up the raging snowflakes and slashed across Su Hua's chest. The terrifying power of the Earth-grade peak swordplay was like a huge wave. The sword aura passed through Su Hua's entire body and sent him flying. Along the way, the snowflakes formed a snowstorm that raged on him and ravaged him. It also made Su Hua scream like never before. He screamed. Finally, with a loud bang, Su Hua smashed onto the edge of the battle stage. A thick layer of snow had accumulated on his body. The snow quickly melted as Su Su's Yuan Qi dissipated. But Su Hua's face was full of pain. Most of his clothes were torn, and it was difficult for him to even move his fingers. It was obvious that he did not have the strength to continue the battle. How could this be? Su Mei covered her face with her hands in shock and stared at the battle stage. The Su family youths were collectively shocked. Clang! Su Su's hand went limp and his long sword fell to the ground. He began to gasp for breath, his face extremely pale. From the very beginning, he had been desperately accumulating his strength. Even if he was beaten up violently, Even if he was almost sent flying off the stage, he had been enduring and waiting for an opportunity to strike. Now the soda wax was finally gone. Although the sword didn't take his opponent's life, Su Su still couldn't bear it. However, it had also caused Su Hua unprecedented injuries. She would have to lie in bed for at least half a year before she could fully recover. The genius of Yuan Zone actually lost to Su Su, lost to a trash Yuan Zone. Su Hua roared as he lay on the ground. He tried his best to struggle, but he could not get up. He was extremely unwilling. The sword strike just now had shaken his inner palace, causing him to lose the ability to circulate his primal chi. How could this be? Suda 2 was so angry that he almost lost his mind. Waxy, take the energy burst pill, quick. The second elder clenched his fists and roared anxiously. Thump! Qin Hao's heart skipped a beat. In order to help the Su clan participate in the Imperial Martial Competition, he had refined 20 explosive yuan pills in advance and distributed them to the Su clan. Given the second elder's status in the Su clan, how could his grandson not have an energy burst pill? The energy burst pill was a 4th grade sacred medicine. As long as one did not lose an arm or a leg after taking it, all injuries would be healed instantly. It would double the attack power and last for 15 minutes without any side effects. As Qin Hao had refined a supreme grade pill, the effect might be stronger than expected. Once Su Hua took it, in fact, even without Qin Hao's reminder, Su Su had already thought of it. He quickly rushed forward to stop Su Hua from taking the energy burst pill. However, he was still a step too late. Gulp! Su Zhang took out the explosive yuan pill and swallowed it without even chewing it, swallowing it whole. A dazzling light flashed from his body. After the light dissipated, Su Hua stood up from the ground again. All the injuries on his body had healed without any treatment. His muscles were stronger than before, and the strong blue primal chi was twice as thick as before. I have never felt such a terrifying power. Even if a high-level Sky Grandmaster were to stand in front of me, I am confident that I can kill him with one punch. Su Hua looked at his hands in shock. He clenched his fists, and the veins on his arms bulged. His muscles were strong and powerful, and traces of energy flowed through his fingers. He had the impulse to destroy a mountain with one punch. Immediately, he gave Su Su a sinister smile. Now let's fight again. Ha ha ha, this is too funny. The elixir you refined personally has tricked Su Su, who you trained. As Su Hua stood up, his aura was even stronger than before. Big Head Su pointed at Qin Hao and laughed. Sir! At this moment, Su Su looked at Qin Hao for help. In order to use the flying snow, he had used all his primal chi and was exhausted. Moreover, he was injured. Even if Su Hua had not swallowed the energy explosion elixir, Su Su would not be able to defeat him by surprise. Cough cough, this is my mistake. However, it does not matter. The energy explosion elixir will only increase one's attack power. The other attributes will not change. From what I know, Su Hua should not have cultivated any high-level body movement techniques, right? Qin Hao chuckled and said to Su Su, he has eaten the energy explosion elixir. Although his attack power is strong, it will only last for 15 minutes. Use the third move of the flying snow sword, Traceless Snow Steps. Do not fight with him after 15 minutes. That works? Su Su stared. Traceless Snow Steps was nimble, and it was perfect for dodging the clumsy Su Hua. Most importantly, Su Su was weak. Just listen to me. Su Hua is coming. Get out of the way, kid. Qin Hao reminded him telepathically. At this moment, Su Su saw Su Hua swaying like a bear. His primal chi was gushing out from his body as he hugged Su Su. Traceless Snow Steps. Su Su twisted his feet. His body was as light as falling snow. He floated to the side, making it difficult for Su Hua to even touch his clothes. Moreover, he discovered that an inexplicable force was continuously being produced in his body. It flowed into Su Su's dantian and provided him with new primal chi. This force and the warm current under the master's palm. Su Su looked at Qin Hao in surprise. Qin Hao nodded at Su Su as if they were connected. The warm current in Susu's body was the power of Qin Hao's serene water. This force not only provided Su with primal qi, but was also gradually healing his injuries. In other words, even if Su did not receive the energy explosion elixir from the Su family, his recovery speed was not inferior to Su Hua's. At this moment, Su was so touched that he wanted to cry. Shattered stone Vajra fist. Traceless snow steps. Shattered stone Vajra fist. Traceless snow steps. Again and again, the audience stared dumbfoundedly at the two youths who were chasing after each other. It was as if they were playing a game of cat and mouse. After eating the energy explosion elixir, Su Hua's ability had indeed increased significantly. However, Su's flying snow swordplay was a peak Earth-grade martial technique. Although the energy explosion elixir was far inferior to the water wind god steps, it was enough to toy with a small Yuan zone from the mortal world. This made Su Hua feel helpless, as if she was powerless but unable to carry out the mission. After 15 minutes, Su Hua sullenly discovered that the energy explosion elixir's time was up. Flying snow steps. It was the same move again. It landed heavily on Su Hua's chest. Susu was not idle while dodging his opponent's attack. He was preparing for his own counterattack. When the energy explosion elixir's time was up, Su Hua's sword accurately hit his opponent. As expected, Su Hua was sent flying with a whale. This time, he landed 100 feet away from the stage and did not climb back up. Congratulations to the Yu Kingdom's Su for winning. The elder on the stage cheered. However, he did not forget that Qin Hao had promised him that he would give him a small surprise. Qin Hao turned around and patted Su's head as he sensed the powerful aura of the four black-clothed martial artists in front of him. How long until the semi-finals of the children's group? Sir, there is still half a month to prepare. Susu replied truthfully. In fact, Qin Hao had already expected this result. The number of people in the children's group was far less than the adult group. Next, the children's group would enter a state of recuperation and the competition would be suspended. However, the adult group would still continue. Half a month later, on the day of your semifinals, I will give you a small surprise. Qin Hao smiled and turned around to enter the nine-dragon palanquin carried by the four black-clothed martial artists. Smoke rose from the soles of the four black-clothed martial artists' feet. For balls of powerful scarlet flame aura flickered as they carried the palanquin and disappeared in front of the Su family members in the blink of an eye. Hiss! For Pinnacle King stage martial artists. The great elder exclaimed in shock. The Silk Nation prince was not to be trifled with. The men who carried the palanquin were the strongest among the Yuan kings. However, the fact that four of them were sent to welcome Sir was enough to show how much importance the Silk Nation Prince Tsaogwa placed on Qin Hao. His respect for Qin Hao was self-evident. Sir is so talented. Why was he not born in the Su family? Sigh. The great elder sighed and turned around to return to the pub. Why? Why did he have to wait until the day of my competition to tell me the surprise? Susu shouted at the night sky, looking very unwilling. He was very much looking forward to Qin Hao's gift. However, Qin Hao's voice did not come from the night sky. When he appeared again, Brother Hao had already arrived at the bustling central area of the imperial capital. The imperial capital of Daliao was larger than the imperial capital of Luoshui. The Good Citizen pub was located at the outermost periphery in an unusually remote location. The area where the Drunken Immortal Pavilion was located was brightly lit, as if it was daytime. There was an endless stream of people on the streets, and couples were shopping at the night market. It was extremely lively. Your Highness, Prince Qi and Prince Shuaihan are waiting for you in the most luxurious private room on the top floor. We will not disturb you any further. The black-clothed martial artist who led the team to welcome Qin Hao said. After that, the palanquin openly floated on the top floor of the Drunken Immortal Pavilion. Qin Hao replied. He slowly stepped out of the palanquin and stepped onto the corridor on the top floor. He then turned around and asked the black-clothed martial artist kindly, "Are you from the Longchuan army, or are you from the Quick Run Battalion?" Chapter 960. It's a long story. Qin Hao sighed softly and told Yi Shuaihan and the others about the bloody battle on Lanchuan Mountain in detail. Fortunately, the old demon had been there to help. Otherwise, the consequences would have been very serious, and Qin Hao might have died. Yi Shuaihan and the others were deeply shocked after listening to the story and were speechless for a long time. An inferior sovereign, 10 peak Yuan venerates, more than 20 venerate assassins, and more than 200 high-level Yuan monarchs. Yi Shuaihan's eyes were filled with fear. Just thinking about that scene made his scalp go numb. Yi Shuaihan's cultivation had improved greatly, and he had entered the venerate level after receiving special training from Yilan Yuan. Even so, even with the help of everyone present, it was impossible to defeat the enemies that Qin Hao was facing. And this had happened more than half a year ago. At that time, Qin Hao's strength had already reached such a terrifying level. How strong was he now? Yi Wuhan and Little Jiu's expressions became extremely bitter. But your eyes, Chen Wanqin's jade-white hands clenched tightly. She had once been drugged by a flower thief and experienced the feeling of blindness. Her whole body had sunk into darkness, and she was filled with fear of everything around her. Qin Hao is such an outstanding person. How painful would it be for him to lose his sight? Don't worry, it's only temporary. I have refined an elixir to restore his sight. Qin Hao smiled and comforted everyone. He didn't dare say that his physique was different from ordinary people and that he could recover by himself even if he turned into minced meat. This kind of heaven-defying physique was exclusive to god powerhouses. In the current world, Emperor Yuan was the most powerful, and there were no more god-level powerhouses. For Qin Hao to say it out loud, it was a bit too shocking. I believe in Big Brother's ability. However, the difficulty of the competition will get higher and higher. Will it affect you? Xiaohua asked worriedly. They had participated in the competition purely for fun. At most, they would represent Western Liang against the powerhouses of the other 3 regions. However, Qin Hao was participating in the competition to see Xiaohan. Even if I lose my light, not everyone can step on my head. Why not? Why don't you give it a try? Qin Hao followed Yi Shuaihan's aura and beckoned him over with a smile. No, 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 no. Yi Shuaihan hurriedly waved his hands in front of him. What a joke. More than half a year ago, Qin Hao already possessed the ability to kill a mid-level Yuan venerate head-on. Yi Shuaihan was only a low-level Yuan venerate at the moment. He would rather find an administrator to fight one-on-one than provoke Qin Hao, even if Qin Hao lost his light. Sai, forget about us. If Big Sister Xing finds out that the leader is blind, she'll probably gouge out someone else's eyes to treat you. Little Nine thought about it. This was definitely going to happen. Xing? It would have been better if he hadn't mentioned Xinger. Now that he did, Qin Hao asked, "Where are the others?" Xinger, Little Zhu, Little Li, Big Sister Ah Ku, and my cousin. Are they not here? How could they not be here? Yi Shuaihan spread his hands. Boss, the entire Western Liang martial world was shaken when your signal arrived. Xinger and Big Brother Qin Yin naturally came as well. However, there were too many people, so it was inevitable that they would attract the attention of others. We are competing separately. Big Brother Qin Yun is in the southern competition zone, while Xinger should be in the eastern competition zone. Yi Shuaihan actually wanted to say that it wasn't just Qin Yun and Xing. Almost all the rising stars of Western Liang had rushed to the northern border to boost Qin Hao's momentum. Unfortunately, Qin Hao didn't know any of them. If he did, at least 30% of the martialists who had reached the semifinals were from Western Liang. These martialists came from various sects and had spontaneously organized themselves to help Qin Hao kill the other martialists in the arena. This way, it would greatly shorten the time it took for Qin Hao to win the championship, allowing him to stand in front of Xiao Han as soon as possible. As he spoke, Yi Shuihan also took out his golden token for entering the semifinals and injected his essence into it. The golden token in his palm emitted a light, and a white light screen immediately appeared in front of everyone. On the light screen was a densely packed list of participants. If Qin Hao could see it, he would discover that this light screen was the Emperor Martial ranking that had been floating in the sky of the northern competition zone during the day. However, Yi Shuihan had activated a miniaturized version of it. Through his mind, he flipped through the Emperor Martial ranking. Qin Yun and Xing'er's names were on the list. Qin Yun ranked 31st on the Emperor Martial ranking. Xing'er ranked 32nd on the Emperor Martial ranking. She was actually ranked right below Qin Yun. It could be seen that Xing'er's cultivation had improved a lot in the past year. I never expected the advancement token to have such an effect. Qin Hao had learned something new. Even though he could not see it with his eyes, the expert who drew the Emperor Martial ranking had an extremely powerful cultivation. When a miniaturized version of the Emperor Martial ranking appeared, it had already been imprinted in Qin Hao's mind through his mind. Qin Hao could also flip through the names he wanted to see on the list at any time. In fact, the first name he flipped through was himself. Qin Hao ranked 672 on the Emperor Martial ranking. This was a ranking that he had managed to squeeze into after killing one saber stream. Actually, when Qin Hao flipped through the Emperor Martial ranking in his mind, Yi Shuihan's ranking was also moving. Qin Hao's mind stopped, and his own name happened to be stuck in his mind. At this moment, Yi Shuihan and the others saw it and could not help but feel embarrassed. Boss's ranking is really terrible, isn't it? If it were up to me, Boss would at least be in the top 15. Melon Lord, this is your fault. You are clearly looking down on my idol. If it were up to me, you would be in the top 10. Xiao Jiu said indignantly. The corners of Qin Hao's mouth twitched. Are you King praising me? Or do you not have confidence in me? Why not say the top 3? Are the top 10 on the Emperor Martial ranking very strong? Qin Hao asked. This. Xiao Jiu and Yi Shuihan looked at each other and nodded. They should be very strong because the current top 10 on the Emperor Martial ranking, besides the known Crown Prince of Northern Yin Murong Zijuan and the Crown Prince of Northern Chi Yuan, the other 8 positions are vacant. That's right. Even the top genius of Daliao, Duan Ziju, is only outside the top 10. He happens to be 11th. However, for the other 8 positions in the top 10, rather than being vacant, it would be better to say that someone deliberately used external forces to hide their names from the other contestants. Only the top 10 in the finals will probably appear. As Xiao Jiu spoke, she was a little nervous and excited. According to Yi Shuihan's analysis, the Emperor Martial ranking was most likely drawn up by Emperor Xiao Yi. The willpower of an Emperor-level expert was very strong. Basically, Xiao Yi could clearly see the level of all the contestants with a sweep of his willpower. Therefore, the Emperor Martial ranking was very reliable. So, Yi Shuihan, who was so powerful, was only ranked 15th. One could imagine how heaven-defying the top 10 and even the top 3 contestants were. It was indeed very exciting. Xiao Jiu really wanted to see it. Duan Ziju is 11th. Murong Zijuan is 5th. Chi Yuan is 6th. Qin Hao thought in his heart and nodded silently. He admitted that the rankings might be true. After all, when the Blue River Mountain incident happened, Duan Ziju and Murong Zijuan's cultivation was about the same as Yi Shuihan's. It was reasonable for them to surpass Yi Shuihan now. It seemed that the cultivation of the top 3 on the Emperor Martial ranking could not be underestimated. As Xiao Jiu said, they must be very strong. Chapter 961. Ha ha ha. Yi Shuihan laughed and took a sip of the tea in front of him. Boss, don't worry. That won't happen. With the huge network of the Luo Shui royal family, he had received news from the Imperial Martial Arts competition that the semifinals would no longer be a competition between contestants. Instead, they would use another method to determine the qualifications of the new contestants. Because there were too many contestants, it would take too long for them to compete one-on-one. The organizers had decided to select 50 contestants from each division to participate in the finals. Yi Shuihan wasn't too sure about the specific method of selection. However, they would not fight against Qin Hao. At least, they would not meet before the semifinals. As for the finals, after the semifinals, there would be a total of 200 contestants from the 4 divisions. The chances of the meeting were very small. After hearing Yi Shuihan's explanation, Qin Hao heaved a sigh of relief. If he had to personally send Xiaogua and Yi Shuihan off the stage in the next semifinals, he would not be able to do it. Idol, after talking for so long, you still don't know much about me. Next, let's have a friendly chat and deepen each other's impression. Allow me to introduce myself again. I am Xiao Jiu, your loyal fan. I have been imitating you. You look... Little Nine pointed at the top of his head. His hairstyle was exactly the same as Qin Hao's ponytail. Your hairstyle, your attire, the way you usually speak, the calmness and coldness you display when facing the enemy, each and every one of your actions are deeply imprinted in my mind. Your every move is imprinted in my bones. Xiao Ju said excitedly. The first time he paid attention to Qin Hao was at the 4 Nations martial arts competition held by the Beiwu Nation. At the martial arts competition, Qin Hao killed Long Outyin and killed Zhao Ritian, causing Yu Liangchun to admit defeat. Xiao Jiu was deeply captivated by Qin Hao's temperament. Next, he followed Qin Hao's footsteps all the way to Luoshui's imperial city. Once again, he witnessed Qin Hao's impressive results in the Rising Star competition. The last time was when you wreaked havoc in Starry Moon Academy, killed Qiandao, and forced Tian Daoyuo to flee. My respect for you is endless. The more Little Nine spoke, the more excited he became. As he spoke, he clenched his fists and placed them behind his back. He secretly activated his Yuan Qi, causing his clothes to flutter. He had a cold and calm expression, and his face had a trace of Qin Hao's charm. Pucci, Little Nine, this fellow, I really can't stand him. Xiaogua and Yi Shuihan roared with laughter and slammed their palms on the table. Good. Little Nine, right? I'll remember you. Qin Hao blushed with shame. What a fanatical fan. He asked, are you an Essence Soul Realm martial artist? Yes, my idol. Little Nine immediately regained his senses from playing the role of Qin Hao and quickly bowed in response. Show me your Essence Soul. Qin Hao was interested. Little Nine was the first dark element martial artist he had met after his rebirth. Are you sure? Little Nine's eyes widened. Because his Essence Soul was special, it was disliked by many. Even Xiaogua and Yi Shuihan were very sensitive to Little Nine's Essence Soul. Once his Essence Soul appeared, it would make people feel uncomfortable. In front of his idol, he did not want to arouse Qin Hao's disgust. It's just an Essence Soul. Come, let me see it. Although Qin Hao could not see the sword, he could feel it. Big brother, let's not do it? Yes, boss. There's nothing to see. Yi Shuihan and Xiaogua tried to dissuade him. They quickly avoided Little Nine, including Chun Wanqin and Yi Wuan. They tightly closed their eyes. It was as if in the next second, a demon would appear in front of them. Since my idol wants to see it, then I must show it. I hope my idol can give me a few pointers. Come out, Nightmare. Not allowing Xiaogua and Yi Wuhan to refuse, Little Nine opened his arms and summoned his Essence Soul. Qin Hao's understanding of martial arts was very profound. Little Nine knew that Xiaogua and Yi Shuihan had received Qin Hao's pointers to a large extent. That was why they had such outstanding cultivation today. How could he miss this chance to show off himself? Following his summoning of his Essence Soul, in an instant, the most luxurious emperor's private room fell into darkness. Moreover, there were faint curses accompanying it. The scene was eerie to the extreme. At this time, Xiaogua and Yi Shuihan had already closed their eyes. No one knew where they were hiding. Nightmare's night, this is my Essence Soul. In the dark space, Little Nine's voice rang out, but no one could see where he was. Once Little Nine summoned his Essence Soul, the opponent would immediately fall into his Nightmare's night. In this area, there would be no light and danger would surround them. Little Nine would be like a demon, charging out at any time to deal a fatal blow to the opponent. If the martial artist's mind was not strong enough, there would be terrifying symptoms like hallucinations. In short, the Nightmare's Night was Little Nine's world. In his world, the enemy would be weakened, and he was the master. This was similar to the domain that Qin Hao had awakened, which was his talent ability. Although it was not as strong as the domain, it was enough to show Little Nine's strength. After all, this was his innate ability. It was an innate skill. Ha, 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 isn't it very strong? My idol has fallen into my Nightmare's Night for the first time. What thoughts do you have? Little Nine's voice was filled with pride. When Xiaogua and Yishuehan had seen his essence soul for the first time, they had suddenly lost their sight and fell into darkness. Chapter 963. Like a gust of wind, Zhou Wuning rushed toward Qin Hao. I'll treat you to a drink. Qin Hao slapped the wine cup with the back of his hand. The wine cup in front of him spun like a top and crashed toward Zhou Wuning. Zhou Wuning punched out and turned the flying wine cup into powder. The wine was also evaporated by the force of his fist. However, his body was suddenly blocked. He was stopped in place by the wine cup that Qin Hao threw at him. His palm was still in pain from the shock. You have some skills. A trace of surprise flashed across Zhou Wuning's face. He had underestimated Qin Hao. Surnamed Zhou, if there's no water in your brain, I'll give you a piece of advice. Scram back to where you came from. Openly attacking a member of the royal family in the bustling area of the imperial city, aren't you afraid of being disqualified? Qin Hao turned his head and looked straight at the other party. This was not only what Zhou Wuning was worried about, but also what Qin Hao was worried about. Being disqualified because of a private fight was really a bit unjust. How? What qualifications? I am qualified. I am the law. My aunt is a concubine of the Minister of State Affairs. With my aunt's husband's protection, who dares to revoke my LV Songliang's qualification? Who dares to disqualify my big brother Zhou Wuning? LV Songliang proudly raised his nose and pointed at Yishuehan. I must occupy the Emperor's private room. Today you have to scram. If you don't scram, I'll beat you until you scram. If you're not convinced, you can *King bite me. I like to cause trouble. I just want to be beaten. In short, I don't like you. Moo. LV Songliang had not finished speaking. Suddenly, an angry bison roared like thunder. Xiaogua's entire body crashed into LV Songliang's arms. Like a cannonball, he smashed through the wall with his body. He crashed all the way from the top floor of the drunken immortal pavilion to the bottom floor. In the end, he crashed heavily into the crowd in the hall. The moment he flew up, LV Songliang also let out a hoarse scream of his anus being broken. The Herculean bull devil physique was so powerful that Xiaogua had broken at least half of his bones. Beat him up. Beat him up until his mother can't recognize him. If anything happens, I'll take responsibility. Xiaogua stepped on LV Songliang's head with one foot and shouted in the direction of the Emperor Room on the top floor. Yi Wuhan, Yi Shuehan, Little Nine, and the others immediately made their moves. Bang! Bang! Two loud sounds rang out. Almost at the same time, Yi Shuehan and Zhou Wuling penetrated through the roof of the Emperor's private room. Their Tao Master level aura surged and emitted a dazzling purple light. They were suspended in the night sky of the imperial city, facing each other. The crowd below immediately turned into a mess. Every collision seemed to be extremely heavy. It was as if waves of thunder were shaking the void. If they were careless, no matter who it was, they might lose their ability to fight. The cultivators watching the battle below had a feast for their eyes. They had witnessed in advance how terrifying the top geniuses on the Emperor martial roll were. They calculated in their hearts. No matter if they faced Yi Shuai-Han or Zhou Wuning, they would not be able to take a single blow. Suddenly, many cultivators below felt inferior. Zhou Wuning does have some skills. He is evenly matched with Prince Shuai-Han. The cultivators of the East Continent really live up to their reputation. Yi Wuhan looked up. He was very clear that Yi Shuai-Han was stronger than him. In other words, if he were Zhou Wuning's opponent, he would not be able to defeat him. Xiao Ju nodded. This person's hammer technique is very fierce. The Goshawk Source Spirit has increased his speed. He is fast and fierce. His cultivation realm is so high. If I use Nightmare Night, I'm afraid it will be shattered by his hammer. In front of absolute strength, Xiao Jiao, who was at the king stage, was not Zhou Wuning's opponent. Chen Wanqin did not say anything, but her eyes showed that she was afraid of Zhou Wuning's strength. Brother Han, what's wrong with you? We fought for 80 rounds, and you still haven't killed him. If you can't do it, let me do it. Xiao was stepped on LV Songliang and roared with dissatisfaction. LV Songliang was beaten half to death. His teeth had all fallen out, and his face was swollen like a pig's head. He did not dare to make a sound. Yi Shuai-Han was also helpless against Xiaogua's dissatisfaction. If he used the ultimate move of the Water God Body, he had an 80% chance of defeating Zhou Wuning or even killing him. But the price was too high. Once he used the ultimate move, Yi Shuai-Han would be in a weakened state for a long time. He would not be able to continue participating in the next half of the battle. If he did not use his ultimate move, he would not be able to defeat Zhou Wuning. It was simply his heart was sullen. Shuai-Han, step back. At this moment, Qin Hao moved. If they continued to fight, it would be difficult to determine the winner. Qin Hao was a little sleepy and wanted to go back to sleep. He slowly stood up, and a jade-like green sword appeared in his palm. The edge of the sword was spitting out dark red tongues of flame. Under the stunned expressions of Xiaogua, Yi Shuai-Han, and Little Nine, Qin Hao's right arm was covered with a layer of surging scales. He aimed at Zhou Wuning, who was fighting with Yi Shuai-Han in the air, and fiercely slashed his sword. Flame Dragon's Sun chases, swish. The sword light flashed out and pierced through the night, leaving behind a scorching blood-red magma afterimage. When the sword light brushed past Yi Shuan's body and arrived in front of Zhou Wuning, it turned into a 500-foot-long winding fire dragon.